Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to feedback session number 8. Ooh. Okay, let me share the stream with everybody. Boom, boom. All right. Twink. All right. Cool. Can everybody hear me fine? Oh, yep, I think. All right. Announcements. Everyone. Let's go. Hey Marco, it's you and me here, bro. Hey Elena, how's it going? How's it going, bros? My name is Mish Mapai. Cringe. Stop being cringe, Misha. Hey Heartmania. Hey Irina. Hey CR. Hey Heiko. Hey Valeria. What's up, what's up? Hey Rope. Hey Sveta. Oh, Marco number 2. Sorry, Marco. Sorry, Marco number 2. We need to like Marco and Markovic, I don't know. Hey, Palina. Why is it so hard to get up on Saturday? Even though I got up around 8:15, everything went on a hike to a waterfall. Markovic. The hair today, Misha, it's glorious. You like it? Angry mad scientist style. I need to get a haircut at some point. I'm trying. Just too much hair, guys. Man, I think I did it worse. No, just be, I'll be Shrek. Ta-da! Oh, an million. Okay, sorry guys. Best mad Viking scientist. Where's the beard? Alright, you wanna do, I need to launch Snap Nino, we don't wanna do it. Yeah, alright, we're gonna wait for 2 minutes for everyone to join. I'll give you a Viking haircut with an axe. Stand still. Okay. Are you doing a screenshot? I can just do it, if I launch Snap Camera, I can just give myself a bald head, technically. Hey, Boris. All right. Before we start, guys, I need to mention something important. One of our Vikings needs our help. You all know Julie. I'm not gonna say anything in detail, but right now, Julie needs a lot of love. We need to go onto General Chat English and then start spamming something awesome. Like Julie Mihaminoi, we are with you. Vikings are standing behind you. I don't know, what else can we do? Standing behind you. We love you. Get better. Julie is a little bit sick today, so yeah, if possible, guys, let's go show her some love. As many Vikings as possible. Then Viking roar. Then let's send a bunch of Viking hugs. Oh, nice. Ah, Mihoi Minoi. I get it now. I get it why she has SpongeBob on the thingy, yeah. Yeah, because guys, let's support our own people. We need to do that. I'm not sure what's happening with Julie, but she's not here today. I know that there's some things, but you know, let's show, yeah, let's show some love. Yeah, it always sucks. Human body sometimes suffers, and it's, you know, but it's okay. Julie will get better, but we will miss her when because she's not here right now. Okay. You're the best, guys. I'm not sure if she sees this. She's probably gonna kill me, but hopefully not. You're the best, guys. Keep them going. Keep them going. Some support. So every person comments there. All right. You're the best, guys. You're the best. All right, let's go. Feedback session now. Julie, we love you. Please get better, because the community will not survive without you if you're not gonna be putting the stop signs and then managing everything. We'll miss you. You're not here. But it's okay. You'll get better. All right, let's see what you guys done. Okay, Heiko, I see a cool, let's see, I've reviewed that. By the way, Elera, I don't think you have any tone problem whatsoever. I think it's pretty well done in terms of tone, and I think you already feedback that. Cool, you know, cool corrections, Heiko, very nice. I like it. All right, Sophia, is this King Solomon? Before and after? I'm just curious if Lera is here. Maybe it is the King Solomon. I think it's, what's his name here? I'm not sure if it's the King Solomon. I'm not sure if Lera is here, but if you are, please elaborate, because it's pretty cool. The only thing that I can say that well, I think it's pretty nice in terms of, well, maybe depth for the main character here in front. Maybe he can be a little bit darker, or I think that the background crowd can be pushed away just a little bit, so there's more depth and separation for everything, right? And I know that then he might be, you know, yeah, that's the problem. He's gonna be slowly, maybe that's why you had the dark thing right here. It's a very, very complex, you know, maybe it's fine. The only thing that is like, maybe this is a little bit too hot. Like Joe would love something like this, because there's a lot of Bible stuff at CBN, and a lot of scenes like that. Reminds me of some of my color keys actually. But I think that the light is a little bit too hot here. Not sure how to correct it right now, but overall it's fine. Maybe, you know, adding a little bit more of that, you know, blue bounce in the shadow areas. I really like that you have warm bounce, but I think adding a little bit of coolness into the shadow, especially here, and there from the sky, would be nice. But overall, I think you do need to keep this a little bit less hot, because, you know, it's so hot that in terms of temperature that they all blurred in. I had something similar in terms of I'll show you actually. I just need to go to my ArtStation, and if you guys want to see, there's so many unpublished stuff on my ArtStation, like show me. But I'll show you. I had something similar actually. Let's see if this is a thing. When I was doing some color keys. Maybe this is not. This is not as hot. Let me see if I have something similar. No, I don't. It's not even on my ArtStation, but I had a pretty similar. Thing. But what I would recommend is I probably would keep their parts of their face here, just in the very, you know, in this kind of area, and then have a rim light here behind them, because they're too blown out right now, and I don't really like it because they totally lost their you know, local colors, and this is a huge mess of stuff that if we turn it to black and white, right, it's, I think, just a little bit messy. So I would like to see a little bit more separation of this guy. Not sure how to do it, but this black spot or muddy spot a little bit is distracting. And also thinking of like maybe the shape of this thing, so it's more defined versus you can really spot out what it is. Another thing is control your brush work, right? Because there's a lot of messy stuff here and there. It would be nice if you could start working with maybe a lasso tool, and then just work on your brush work, and then create something more simple. Like, I like how you did the crowd, but I think because you used overlay and maybe color dodge or soft light, I'm not sure, but this is like, this is too hot. This is like metal hot, right? It's almost like if you would have done this kind of lighting, like, I feel like the behind of this guy would be like, you know, it's gonna be kind of like this, and which is too much, right? So first of thing, like, probably you need to, you know, what helps me a lot of the times is just I make everything less contrasty and darker, right? And then I can put the highlights back in where I need to, right? So if it's gonna go into pure white, you know, and then you can do this, and then first of all, like, start working with your focal point first and whatever leads up to it, and then the rest. So I'm not sure, I don't have the time to fix all of it, just needs more of a separation, and then less mud over here, because if you look at this value, it's even darker than this, so this looks closer than this, right? Even though probably this dark value has to be the only one that brings attention, right? And again, fill light over here, and maybe some fill green over here, and then, you know, yeah, and then the crowd is too hot. Let's go next. But overall, I really like it. If it's, I'm not sure if it's King Solomon. Yeah, CR is saying. CR. Yep. When you come to my place in winter, you can give me a haircut like this. I don't mind. All right. Next. All right, let's go. This one, I like it. It's cool. One thing to keep in mind, right? I think maybe if it's so dramatic, you know, have, say, more. Like, I'll probably will do something like this, then maybe have a little bit of light onto him, that it's coming from somewhere, right? And then maybe doing something like this. And also I need some kind of, you know, something in the background. If it's a throne, maybe something like this. Maybe I can have like a family crest over here. Maybe there's a corner there. Maybe there's a guy here standing with like a spear. I'm not sure if it's King Solomon or it's the king, what's my call it? Saul probably. Could be Saul, then King David can be playing on his harp, you know, making him not angry. I'm not sure what Bible story this is yet, but yeah. All right. Let's see if you. Julie can't even respond. We miss you, Julie. All right. Okay, let's see. Dromato. Corrected words most likely won't touch them anymore. Thanks for the feedback and feedback. For the feedback and feedback. Okay, double feedback. Okay. All right. So if you don't touch them anymore, that means I don't have to feedback them. There's still a tangent. There's double tangent now there. So this line that goes here and then here, here's a tangent. Yeah. And another thing is the local colors of this guy are becoming too, they're becoming too washed out. So I would bring some of them back. Just imagine a brown, like you have a sense of brown here, right? I would bring some like maybe not as dark, right? Because if we turn this into black and white, like what's the color of your light? I really like the foreground guy, but another thing is like over here you have a lot of things. Like I would even simplify even more. I did like how you did it, but there's such thing as detail. You have so much detail with those dots that I would just simplify them into something like this, so they're not so noisy. And then with the shapes of the trees, right? Well, again, like if you want this guy to not have a tangent, maybe just make the tree bigger, so his entire silhouette is within the tree, for example, right? And there's like roots and stuff. But he's one of the main characters, right? That we have to pay attention to, but we're paying attention to the brothers more. And then his face is he like undead or something? I like the level of details to the faces. Like you're really good with faces, but then something's happening with everything else. And then why this tree is so contrasty, right? Let's just put it more into the atmosphere, so we don't pay attention to it that much. So we look past it because this acts as a blocker to our painting, and we need to kind of be able to go further because that's where the creature is at. Another thing is like I think it's a little bit too contrasty somewhere, and then also you need to figure out your saturation. Like I wouldn't have, because it's very saturated right now with lots of blues and purples, and then you don't have accent colors because you have you have purple belt, purple thing here, then you have purple flowers, right? And then that takes away from from the experience. So here what I would do is like I would give this guy a highlight onto his face, maybe over here behind the hat, right? Maybe there's gonna be something like this. You kind of already had it, but you lost the local color. Like if I was doing it, like I would for sure make a brown sphere and figure out what the guy would be, because see, I'm using your local colors to kind of give him light, and it looks like he is too desaturated, so I would just even put some of those. I know he's a little bit farther away, but he needs a little bit of get his face and everything else back into place, because right now he's not responding to lighting whatsoever that you set up in the scene, right? And another thing is like because it's so noisy over here, I would even put this entire foreground like this into the shadow, so it's not so contrasty and not so distracting. Another thing, there's this weird thing that just slashes him, or just I don't think it's a good shape. It's too distracting, right? Something like this. And another thing is like this gun is too detailed, right? I would simplify the shape into something like this, so it doesn't bring so much attention to it. Another thing you always have to think about, is your silhouette is reading. So to do that, right, you just do this, right? Let's see if I ruined it. Well, no, not really. he still doesn't read as a silhouette, right? So that means we need to make the background around him, right, a little bit, you know, brighter so he reads, right? Maybe there's fog, maybe this is just the light, I don't know. So now the guy reads a little bit better, and then we're gonna have all those flowers simplified. And another thing is, like, what is the read of this illustration, right? We'll look at the boys and then we'll look at the father. Is the father leading them? Do they see something? Like, if they see something, maybe we can have a shadow here. Like, what are they looking at? Okay, if it's off screen, okay, fine, right? Another thing is, like, construct your, remember when we did like construct your color choices. So your color choices right now is, you know, a bunch of green on green, and you have purples, and then you have purple highlights here, and then you also have purple here, and then you have a very desaturated guy over here. So if you really want to pop your focal points, like, you know, maybe make his, you know, things here like super saturated blue, for example. Well, this doesn't work, right? Because there you already have so much blue everywhere, and blue just looks bad, right? Another thing that you can do in this painting is, again, you can, you know, darken everything, technically, something like this, right? And then you can erase certain parts where you want the highlights, for example, where you want the attention of the viewer to be, and then you can actually build around this to have your highlights around your focal points, right? So if we have something like this, and they're going to be, you know, lit from like this, we have more saturation, more contrast on their faces, and blah 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 blah. So yeah, this just, I don't have the strength to paint over the whole thing, but I hope you understand what I'm going for. But overall, it's a pretty nice painting. All right, same thing here. I remember last time I feedback that this face is just too flat, right? I remember I told you that, you know, the spider's face needs to be dimensional, right? So if it's a ball, right, or at least the eyes have to be dimensional. I know the face is dimensional. Like, this looks like a giant cookie. It's like a cookie next level monster. So I'm not sure if it's you wanted it to look like this, but right now it looks like it's just too flat for me. Even though if it's flat, just, you know, maybe have a little bit more dimensions to it, or bring dimensions more to the eye so they're really like bulging out, like, yeah. And then the last one, and then kaboosh. Yeah. Yeah, again, like, for example, you have so much detail with flowers in here. You need to lose some of it and then simplify it more. And then I'm not sure, like, what this is. Is it the trees, or is it the creature that is expanding? Like, it's a cool image. I really like it. I think this is the strongest one yet. But you need to figure out the more, you know, more how you can just, you know, how you can just amplify what you have in there already, right? So for example, if it's going to be dark, you know, just first of all, like, maybe have shadows more like this, because it's really shiny, right? And then you can really lose a lot of detail by you know, having this, the values of this thing, having more together. And I would still make sure that, you know, you make your focal point as clear as possible. So right now, the reason I'm darkening all around it, and then kind of, because the thing is, now we will pay attention to the circle here and then to the contrast here, because right now we're, you know, we're distracted here a little bit. And then maybe I'll just do more of a, you know, because the thing is, we need to really pop those guys out. So because we have this light, we can use it as a gradient behind this guy, because right now they just get a little bit lost. You know, maybe if they were like replicating this in 3D, that's what you would have gotten. But you know what, when we're doing everything in 2D, we have the power for clear focal points. So I really, you know, advise just have everything as clear as possible, right? Because this is getting lost. Now this is, you know, this is more contrast, and it's good contrast. But yeah, but overall very nice. All right, But you know you're not gonna touch it, so this is just, you know, side notes for you. Noted what I remember from Saturday and made changes. All right. I would say look at my paint over a little bit more and then do whatever I did there, because it's the same problems. More contrast here and there, no shadows. It could be a little bit more contrasty. I think you can push this a little bit more. Just rewatch whatever paint over I did in the last previous session, but I like it. Right, Bucaro. Ignore the first one. All right, I'll ignore. You didn't change it at all. Let's open it on a big screen. Okay, cool. So here, I'm curious if he has like pigmentation disease on him, or those are leaves that are shining through the trees. I like the composition, I like the tree, and I like a lot of things in this thing, but I would say I'll give you the same feedback I gave you last time, right? Because if you want something to shine, you need to have darkness, right? So if you're gonna have the same value range, when he's gonna have, you know, little spots of light shining on him, is gonna be something like this, right? So you either need to, you know, create the darkness, and then that it's a very dense forest, something like this, you know, and then you will have, you know, different light rays coming in on the ground, and you need that darkness to pop things out, right, to shine, right? Or, and again, the local colors are struggling a little bit too. And also, like, I know that you have the little spinkadoodles or hatifnats from the Mummy Troll series on the right, but the thing is, they kind of have to be hidden, and then again, you're using, like, the framing is a little bit awkward. It's like you did this first, and then you expanded it, and then you just kept him on the left. Like, I would still move this guy somewhere here, right? And then they had the hatifnats behind them. Yeah, another thing is, like, if you have a lot of, you know, if you like, you are doing much better with setting up the context of the scene, but like if you want to, you know, again, background, foreground, middle ground, like I would just push the background a little bit farther away. And another thing is that you have, again, you're not getting rid of the line work. Maybe it's part of your style, but it's like you're struggling with two styles at the same time. You're trying to keep the line work, but at the same time trying to have a volumetric background, but then the character itself is not very volumetric, right? So when you are thinking about volumetric stuff, try to simplify things into, like, this is a shape of a ball, right? And it's a white creature. So, you know, just, you know, render a ball. So right now, let's say if I'm gonna render this ball and have its shape, and this is not me doing the creature, I'm just doing the ball. So right now, if I'm just gonna have this without context, it looks like this is like what? This is snow. This is, the temperatures are too cold, right? Even though you have green all around on this creature. So if I was painting this, I would have had a little bit of green bounce on this creature, right? Because there's a lot of things in surrounding that's gonna have that. There's gonna be a blue, there's gonna be a blue bounce light coming from the sky, and then if the sun is shining and it's gonna be, you know, and it's kind of on the warm side, I would have something like this, right? So if we just imagine this ball now in the context, I'm like, oh, okay. So just from looking at this ball and temperatures that I have there, maybe I would just have a little bit of, you know, warm bounce over here. Just from this, I know this is the white local color of your creature, but from this we can tell that what's the lighting setup is, right? The light is coming onto the ball, right? There's a bunch of green bounce all around. But with yours, like, look at the highlight here. If I color pick it, it's freaking blue. Unless you wanted to make everything in the shadow, right? But then if everything was in the shadow, probably this whole thing would have been much darker, right? Because it's in the foreground, right? If it would have been something like this, right? But then yeah, you need to have more reference. Look at the movies, look at animation, look like the main thing that I can look at right now is Incredibles jungle scene. Let's see. Incredibles jungle scene. Let's say if we have any good reference in there when they are, half lit or something. Why do I get a bunch of Lego? Well, let's even look at this scene. I know this is probably a really bad. Like, I'll just get rid of. I know saturation is fine. I'll just do it less contrasty, probably something like that, maybe. Yeah, this is a bad screenshot, but overall, what we can see here is we're probably trying to create something like this, right? When the sun is shining through. Right, so I can just take this reference and be like, okay, well, the sun is affecting, the grass over here through the things, and then maybe some over here. Maybe there's some light coming onto the foreground, right? Now we have this kind of like shiny light coming onto it. And then here, maybe half of it is in the shadow, so it's just having a cooler version of this. And then if there's any, hot spots from the light affecting it, we'll have something like this. And same on the character, right? So the character's skin color is going to be on the warmer side, probably. Again, you just need to have, or on the cooler side, something like, maybe something like this, maybe even something towards purples, if he's in the shadow. And then the moment where he gets hit by the warm light, we're going to go towards warms, and then to almost pure white when he's hit by the light. So again, reference, just get a bunch of your local colors from here into here, and then try to, if I was you, I would just try to copy paste this guy that you have here, and then pasting it into this reference and trying to fit it into the lighting scheme. So yeah, please use reference. And then the last one, okay, where is it? And the last one, which is this, it's first of all, right, I know that you have some reference somewhere in there, but I am struggling a lot of with your lead, this is pointing here, but then this is pointing here and goes into this. I know you tried to, I'm not sure what this is. I know you tried to point maybe with this thing to this guy, but all of the guidelines are all over the place. I'm not sure where to look, as you can see here, right? If everything is around this guy, right, I would maybe move him over here, this guy, maybe something like this, right? So if it's here, then what is happening, this guy is going to be here, and then this guy is here. But at the same time, I'm really confused what the lighting scenario is, because your sound is coming from the back, and things that are coming from the back, we're exposing for the light for the most part, and there's very little of what we can see in the shadows. And I think we already did the same feedback last time, right? So if we have something shining, very, very brightly in the background, it's going to be like this. The only thing that you're going to see is, well, a silhouette of like a cowboy, something like this, with maybe some shadows here, right? But here you see into the silhouette. So the lighting scenario that you picked up is not good. Why? Because backlighting is only good for revealing the silhouette. The entirety of your painting would have been something like, something like this. Right? And then maybe there's a boy kid over here, and then there's people, but then you would have not seen anything within the silhouette. If you want to see something within the silhouette, and then like the face and everything else, you need to have a different lighting scenario. You need to have, this is his head, this is his wing, this is another wing, this is the kid, maybe there's something in the foreground, and then lighting has to come from right to left. So you didn't choose the right lighting scenario for this. Another thing is, this whole creature is like a ball, and then you have like different things sticking out of that ball. There's not enough structure, and then you have like the back, for example, this is the perspective, right? And then you have, the the leg here in front, and then the other leg over there. So if this was a creature and this is a top view, his front legs and his back legs, one of his legs is positioned is placed here, and then the other leg is positioned here in terms of like where it puts, like if this was a Lego dragon, right? This is his head and this is his wings, right? I'm sorry for the super messed up structure of your thing, but yeah, just I think what happened is you fell in love so much with this perspective and with this composition, with the lighting scenario, that you just try to fix what is not working. And I think it's going to be much easier to start over. Because again, like, what are we doing? Is he pointing at, like, what is this? Is it kind of like a voodoo doll, or is it an actual person, right? Why is it showing it to them? Why they're pointing at the voodoo doll, right? And why is he looking at this way? Is there danger there? Like, this guy has like a spear on it. Is it because this guy was pointing the voodoo doll at him? Like, there's a lot of questions that I have, and I don't have many answers. Yeah. So this thing needs a lot of love. So, where, for example, your previous, like your previous composition here, it was pretty clear what the focal point is. Everything's going towards that, and then the creature is like, I don't know, it's standing behind him, maybe protecting, maybe not. I'm not sure. All right. So every time when, like, I would just start. You don't even have to start over. What you need to do is you need to, you need to figure out what your structure is and what your focal point is. So if the focal point is like this guy is protecting this guy, right? Well, first draw the head, and then maybe the gesture, right? And then draw him, kind of being, defeated and slouched over. And he's kind of like, this is mine, and he's protecting it with his wing. So see, like, if this was the composition, we have a circle composition that is pointing to the person, versus like all over the place, right? And then you can just have guidelines in the foreground, pointing and then being threatening there. Like, I'm not sure where they at right now. It's like, is it a wall? That's another thing. Are those stairs, or that's a wall? There's a lot of unclear things that doesn't work yet. Yeah, sorry for being a little bit rough love, but it's important. All right. Okay. Do. Okay, let's see what we got here. Keyframe first rework. Second, change the bike to pink. It was green. Red was turning out too dark to be readable. Okay. Awesome. I like it. Yeah, I think it's better. I'll still maybe add more saturation to it, just a little bit. And then maybe it's okay that your scenes are a little bit, like, the only thing that is feeling a little bit empty is that it looks, well, it's an abandoned thing, so maybe that's okay. I would just add a little bit volumetric, like, little dust particles here and here. But I think this works pretty great. And here you added some birds, cool. That's, the scene is a little bit more populated. I think it definitely helps that you have a little shadow here, because it brings attention where you really need it. So it goes here, you go through the birds, and then ta-da, cool. I like it, it's pretty nice. Highlights are where needed, saturation here, and here. Yeah, the only thing I would just add is maybe some dust particles over here. So you immerse the feeling a little bit. And another thing is, like, probably just for depth. The only problem with this scene is that they are on the same plane as the bike. So even though I know that you probably think it's going to be not around realistic, but I would just, pop this bike, because they're looking at the bike, right? Another thing is, it's so in the foreground, you have to understand that you know, I'll just look at it from this perspective. I'm just curious. Depth. Yeah. I would just, you know, I would just had some separation with volumetric light on this bike. Doink. I am lassoing. Crap. I lost. Oh, it's okay. Oh no. All right, I'll just do this. I just feel like it needs a little bit of that and also needs a little bit of that. Either this, right? Or we need to do this. I just feel that they just look too, you know, too the same. So I would, you know, I would maybe do something like this. And then maybe not so much in terms of the blur, but woo! But you do need to utilize some kind of a trick, because another thing is they're on the same plane in terms of the focal point, right? So we have the bike, the highlight is here, and then we have the characters. It's on the same plane, right? So, and that's not really good. So you either need to cheat it and then maybe have, you know, the bike itself, you know, a little bit something like this. So, because try to avoid focal points on the same plane or on the same line, because we're in the same line, everything looks flat and uninteresting, right? Because we don't have to travel far, we just go here and that's it. And usually something like this, even though you try to make this shot as dynamic as possible by, you know, by making the horizon line tilted, but that's probably why you did it, because probably the shot looked too static, right? And actually it's kind of fun if we just do this. They're kind of like, whoop. Yeah, so I would either move the bike up, I would either add blur so there's more depth, or I would have added, you know, separation with the volumetrics and made them a little bit pushed into the background, right? One of those things, because something's not correct here, and I think it's the placement of the bike that is just too boring. But you know, at the same time, maybe we don't need to be, you know, too picky about it. I don't know, but something bothers me in this thing. Just let's let me try other things out. You know, maybe if we just, you know, maybe if we just do this, it's already gonna help a little bit, maybe. But then they get a little bit lost. That's why I kind of want a little bit of volumetrics here for a more clear read. So the bike, but then at the same time, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, so I think it's just the placement of the bike. Honestly, it already works. Don't bother about it. Just, you know, go forward with your next keyframe. This is just me nitpicking, but later on, I would have, yeah, if I was just on the sketching phase, just avoid having the focal points on the same line, because it is boring. And then you know, the dynamic tilt, even though it helps a little bit with this shot, it doesn't fix it. Yeah. Okay. Right, Tiana, let's go. Pew pew. Almost to work on the screen. I know it's maybe too long, but I want to do it the best I can. Been learning a lot from this work, and I've been struggling with many things, but I had a lot of fun doing this. By the way, I didn't use a tablet for this. Only one I didn't use a mouse, just a touchpad. Oh my god! I know I'm crazy, but like working like that. So you use your touchpad for that, huh? Okay. So for using a touchpad, this is 10 out of 10. But I'm gonna tell you this. So if we turn this into black and white, just look from far away. Can you read and spot anything? No, not really, right? Things are too, you know, they're too bright. It's super cool, clear shapes. Oh, the horizon that tilted the ship is. Didn't think about Focal's location though. Okay, cool. All right, see, that explains a lot. Yeah. Okay, the ship is tilted. Got it. And technically, the center of gravity is here, so that's why where they are. So yeah, okay, cool. It makes sense. Yeah, but the bike location, yeah, just needs to move down a little bit, but it's a great painting, nonetheless. Okay, so with this one, right? Try to figure out first of all your lighting, right? Your lighting comes, as I can see here, he has a shadow behind him, right? But the bear itself doesn't have a shadow. So if this guy, it was a color ball again, right? And it's an orange color ball, right? Something like this in a neutral sense, right? Then he would have a highlight on the right here, something that you already did, right here. And then here he's gonna have a shadow, but you don't really have a shadow over here, but you have a pretty strong shadow here. So another thing is like the position of your shadow. It's very long in terms of like this shot, in terms of the positioning of your, you know, of your shadows. It's almost like it's a freaking, you know, it's a sunset scene, and then you know everything should be something like this. That's when you usually get those kind of super, you know, super dark long shadows. But then if it's in the middle of the day, what you had over here, right? Maybe the shadow would have been not so long, and then you know this would have shadows over here, and then we need to make it volumetric. And it probably was very hard to do with a mouse. Another thing is like you have light upon light upon light, right? And then you try to pull the context out with fog, right? But if I was doing this and I wanted to really like, it needs more fog then to pop this guy out, because he's a little bit too, you know, he's a little bit too not contrasting enough, because he's like yellow top of yellow. Everything else, like the VFX are awesome, you know, it's just you need to rearrange everything. Like if I was doing this thing, I would probably just made this something like, you know, I would just, another thing is like you need to have your forms correct. So like if I was doing something like this, you have a lot of little details everywhere, so I would just simplify everything. Like if you have lots of details in your focal point, you need to make your background a little bit simpler, right? So if we do something like this, I know this is not perfect. And then also another thing is I'm going to show you this one thing, that you have your, you know, your bear, you have this line, and then the bear is pointing with this line, and it creates a tangent. So you either need to place the bear above it or totally below it. I think that the key is to probably have the bear above it. So if I was doing this, I would probably do something like, I would do something like, okay, something like this. So he's above, and then I probably will have his hand pointing down a little bit, something like this. And then with this thing, I would just paint this in, and have the shadow over here. All right, and then I probably would have pushed the entire background a little bit even more. So it's, as you can see here, has more depth. And then I would just simplify all of this as much as possible, and then something like this, right? So this is where I positioned my bear, and then you could have had, you know, you can have those kind of like cactuses going into the background. Then we need to bring the focal point back, so let's have this, and I'm gonna bring this guy back. I'm just gonna have this guy. Okay, super cool, awesome rocket. And I would make him probably, you know, like one thing about this guy is that he's not very dynamic. So like I would like, you know, put his I would put his legs up and he's like, pow, you know, that he just shot it out and he's like going back, for example, right? And then I would have probably had this guy somewhere here, this guy somewhere in here. Maybe I wouldn't have had this guy something like this. And again, I would have had him being volumetric. So if the light is coming from the top left, you know, we need to color him accordingly to the lighting scenario that is happening on the screen right now. And then he would have a, you know, a shadow behind him, something like this. You still can have your, you know, your foreground cactuses and stuff like that. Maybe he's a little bit too big, something like that. And then if you had this guy over here with all these awesome clouds, sorry, I'm doing a little bit rough, but I'm sorry for that. Okay, see, twink twink twink, like are they like, how's this monkey connected to all of this? Is this monkey like against everybody? That's the thing. You need to figure out what's your focal point first, because the main thing is like this guy is fighting this guy, right? Why this guy is like, is he like the judge of them? Is he coming? Oh, he's jumping. So I can see some lines over here. Yeah, you really need a tablet. I really like your color choice, how you use multiply, and it's pretty awesome in terms of that. But the composition, like the good thing, like good reference is, what's it called? Zuba splash art. So a really good reference is Zuba. So when they have a bunch of, you know, they have like a bunch of animals, as you can see, fighting and running, and see the focal point is super clear. It's the main thing. Everything else is supporting element going into the distance, right? We have something like this also. We have the main focal point, these two guys, and the other ones are there to support it, right? We have something like this. I don't really like this one. Yeah, and when yours, right, when we are putting in, it's like, yes, this guy is fighting against this guy, but then, you know, the background is very distracting. So I would say this: you need to simplify the background, making the focal points clear what is the main thing, and then all the detail, like you have detail here, is distracting a little bit, right? You have details here, you have details here, you have details here, but then this guy is not the main focal point. Also, it doesn't respond to the lighting accordingly. And then this guy is just randomly like, just, you know, just flying around. So yeah, I would just push the background, something simpler, because if you have so much detail in the foreground, and then the background is an incredible set, too much detail. If everyone is super, no one is super. If there's too much detail everywhere, there's nowhere detail, right? You cannot focus on things that are important. And then trying to figure out where the monkey, because there's so many things going on. There's like cogs, and there's cactuses, and then there's everything else. So the easy fix is, yeah, first of all, you need to get this guy above the line, and then I would just push the background even more into, you know, into something like this, and had the bear being above it. Yeah, and then with this guy, he's just standing there, you know, and then like, it's interesting because you have the lighting coming from the top right to the left, but for example here he has a shadow and he has a light in front of him. Same thing with his gun. So when you are doing your lighting and everything else, you need to figure out those things in advance, because right now this is not even realistic lighting. It's pretty cool. So this is very kind of like cool, you know, casual gaming mobile splash art. But the background needs to be simplified into something Yeah, and then just the focal points need to be clear. Sorry I don't have the time to finalize it, but I hope you understood. But it's really solid. It's super impressive that you did it with a touchpad. Yeah. Double gun makes the bear look more intense. Yeah, Brawl Stars looks like it looks really nice already. It kind of just needs to scoot it around a bit just to become better positionally. Yeah. It's almost there. Like if you didn't, I have no idea how you did it with a touchpad. Maybe that's why you couldn't like paint some things in. But if you were just doing it with a lasso, you know, this would have been half in shadow for sure. Yeah, it's super solid. I like the colors. I like how you simplify things. It just needs to be pushed just a little bit, but I love it. It's very nice. All right, Yelena. It's pretty scary for me to post all right now, but I did my best to this moment. I hope I can finish the game by the end of this camp. Of course you can. Don't be scared. There's nothing to be scared about. Katya, are you just double checking if I get your messages? Katya's messaging me and deleting things. I don't know why. Are you testing something out? Right. Okay, cool. So are they standing for so long in one position that that the light changed? I'm not sure you need two of those. I would use this as like, you know, show that you can do time of day. If you do the third time of day, maybe as a separate post, but I would either choose this or this for your beginning. Yeah, this is good. I like it. Maybe the island can be a little bit bigger, maybe just a little bit. This is cool. Maybe I'll just have the shadows a little bit more aggressive here because the lighting is coming here, but then you'd have no shadows here from this. Yeah, then there would be a little bit more of a shadow here. Just more reference of water. This is cool. I like it. Cool, nice. This is also nice. Lots of things going on. Complex image. I would just leave it as it is. This is pretty cool. A little bit weird camera position, just so you know, behind his what was it called? This thing. Yeah, maybe I would just pull the camera a little bit more behind him, so we just don't see his top of his head because this is a little bit comical. This is probably a very important moment, and we just see the top of his head. Yeah. But overall, I like how you did it. Super simple, super nice. But another thing is like where the lighting is coming here. Is it from the behind? If it's from the behind, whoop, copy image. If the light was coming from behind, oh, come on. If the image was coming from behind in here, right? Let's say from above, right? The whole thing would have been something like, I gotta do it very crudely. Would have been probably exposing for the shadow in here, and same thing for this guy. Everything would have probably looked something like this, and he would have had, you know, he probably would have had, you know, subsurface scattering under his ears, responding to all of that. I know this is not perfect, but same thing with her ears. If it's coming from the top down, we still can do a little bit of warmth or some, you know, we can have some bounce on her to just bring some attention to important parts. But the thing is, if the lighting is behind, you have to understand, guys, where the light hits, it creates light, but where the light doesn't hit, it creates a shadow. It is not possible for the light to hit somewhere and then have it also light, right? So, and brighter the light is, darker the shadow is. So when you are lighting anything, this is not like if we would just turn it to black and white. This is an illustration. This is an impossible lighting scenario, right? And another thing is like if I was painting this thing, I would probably just first of all erase this. Finished her. What's it? It's skirt. This is Mantia, right? And maybe would have had the guy kind of like, I don't know, you know, maybe we would have moved her back. He was in the middle of like tying up his shoes, and he got up and saw this beautiful face. Maybe something like, you know, something, no, I don't know. This looks a little bit funny, but you know what? Your story is a little bit to the has a little bit of humor in it, so maybe why not? It's definitely a very funny camera position. Maybe it's not wrong, you know. But if I was doing it, I would either moved her to the right and had him like, you know, had an over the shoulder shot where he's just, you know, standing like this, out of focus, in amazement. He's like, what the hell? Or had him, you know, standing over here, you know, in the foreground. He's like, what is that? And then maybe just had his shoulder and he's out of focus. And then maybe they're both standing like this, and she emerges in between them. She's like, wow, so beautiful, you know. But it's either like him and his sister's gonna be standing to the left and to the right, and this way it's a more balanced composition, right? And we can see where they are related to each other, and it's more epic, right? And versus, you know, just the only thing that we need is this, you know, have a little bold spot for more comedy, right? Because this looks just a little bit weird in my opinion. So yeah, I would just add them on the right and the left, and then the rest is pretty good in my opinion. This is cool. I like their facial expressions, you know. But again, like if you have, you know, if you have, it's a crisscross lighting. I would probably have the background, because you have light against dark. So, and when you know what your values are in terms of the read of the characters, you know, emphasize it. So if it's light against dark, which is light skin colors on top of greenery, right? Something like this. So embrace it. You can pop those characters later on and then work it with your focal point. So right now the focal point is this guy. Probably there's going to be shadow on his, you know, on him from her, but then at the same time this part of him is going to be a little bit in the shadow, and then she will be completely in the shadow, something like this, right? If the light is correct, and then she will have a half shadow here. But then you're like, well, then she's too dark. Well, you can always do, like, you know, you can do a bounce light on her face from greenery if you want, or you can have a bounce light coming from a reflector underneath to get some saturation into her face, so it's not so blah, right? Yeah, and try to, you know, keep your, I know they have white hair, and the thing is with white hair that it will acquire the local colors of surrounding. So they're gonna have a lot of green hues in them, because when you look at any object that is pure white, you know, it just takes the local color of all the things around them really, you know, easily. And then you can work with those guys. They're gonna have some skin tones, and they're gonna have some bounce in them from the greenery, right? Blend looking in there, or they can just purely be lit by the you know, by the sky dome, by the blue light coming from the whatchamacallit, from the sky through the trees, and then this way they're not going to be distracting because our main focal point is this. Technically, if you wanted to make it even more interesting, you can always push your background to even more darks, so those guys actually pop same way as those guys is light against dark. But see, it's pushing and pulling. I would definitely add a little bit more contrast here and there, but yeah, those are my 2 cents. Overall, very nice. You pushed it pretty far. I'm proud of you. Again, like we've only been doing this for 10 weeks. Don't expect yourself to, I think you already jumped 2 or 3 heads above you, all of you guys. Just make sure that it's a gradual process. It's not an overnight thing. You're already thinking about so many things, and you already got so many more information to balance around. It is not a mystery that some of it slips through here and there. I'm proud of you guys. You're doing very well. You're doing very well. All right, let's see what's next. Okay, Antonina. Nice. I feel so bad for that orc family, man. I don't know why so dark. Yeah, this is perfect. I love it. Whatever I will be adding to this is maybe, keep your values in check in terms of like, this has a lot of contrast. Maybe merge some of them so it's a little bit more together, because first of all, this is green and she's green, right? So maybe have a little bit more saturated green on her, or more of a highlight on her, because she will get a little bit lost in all of this. So, I like how you simplified this, for example, on the left. It's really nice because, as you can see, your midtones and dark tones are pretty together, but here you have more of a value range. So I would just join this. So right now you have 3 values in it: highlight, midtone, and dark. That's good, but at the same time, the value range here is similar to what you have on the girl. And the traditional rule is you need to have most contrast and more value range in your focal point, and everything else has to support that. So I would just, as I say it in Russian, spisal by a bunch of those leaves. I would just joint them and then simplify them together, just like you did here, here, and there. Another thing, like even here, you can also merge some of those values and have them not as contrasty. So this is the main focal point, but I really like it. It's pretty nice. This is perfect. This is finished. I would not do a thing in here. This is pretty nice, even though it's a little bit monochrome, but I like it. It works. And then here, I really like the night on the left. I really like the color of the moon even. I know it doesn't make sense, but it's a cool see, it's a cool little foreshadowing. And then you probably did it maybe because you tried to connect this and this, and you want some red in here. I would just do a little bit more of a highlight in the room here, maybe just a little bit more. Yeah, and then this one is perfect. You added a secondary light just like I asked you to, and then you had this red fill that gives so much to the thing. Yeah, very tragic story, but very well executed. I like it. Super nice. I have nothing to say. I think you are, besides this, you see this, like just from far away, like this reads first, and then this reads for me at least. So either you have to make her more contrasting, things around her more contrasty, or make this a little bit better. Yeah, and other than that, this is super solid and super awesome. I love it. Very nice. All right, the poor Julie, who cannot be here. Julie, are you here? Probably not. But, we miss you. But I'll still feedback this. So the main thing that I'm gonna feedback here is that it's super awesome, and I like that you did what I asked for, right? But at the same time, I like that it's gonna go but with, I know that the camera and the blur of the camera works both ways. Hello.
Hi. Sorry.
It's okay. The blur of the camera works both ways, but I think I would have pushed the background a little bit farther away, maybe something like this, because you have a lot of darks in it. And then we need to pay attention to the foreground. And then the thing is, if we have too much, if we have too much things and detail in the background and lots of contrast, this starts competing with our focal point. I like the the thing that you have in here, right? But it's almost like maybe we can do either something like this, or we need to do something like this, because when we turn this into black and white, right, it's, yeah, we read this, but then we kind of go here, and it's almost that it's right here in front of us. And another thing is you have a lot of detail in here, which is not too bad, but you have so many things here, here, and here. Like, it just needs to be simplified a little bit. But overall, maybe I wouldn't even touch it. I think it's pretty solid already. There's almost like they're being sucked into a vortex, and he's the only guy who's gonna come out of it, or go into it. Yeah, I think it's finished. I think it's a pretty nice job, well done. All right, this is super cool. I like it. Maybe we ran out into, you did it so well that we ran into the opposite thing. Now the foreground is too readable, and it just pays too much attention. So to make the foreground not so readable, we need to make sure that, as you can see, the relationship between this value over here, which is black, and then this one that is gray, we need to make them closer. So for example, this and this together, or I guess around it, is more contrasty, right? So, but this and this is less contrasty, as you can see, right? So this thing is your mask. So this brings less attention, this brings more attention. That's what's called contrast. So by just making a little bit like this, we are not paying attention to those masks as much, and we're looking here, but it's a little tweak. It's pretty nice already. All right, and the king of all keyframes. Okay, cool. The only one thing that kind of distracts me is the bubbles. I hope you have the bubbles on a separate layer. It's almost like they're too big and they're too distracting. Like, I would just, like, by getting rid of those bubbles, I think the focal point reads already better. And I would just do, the little ones, just like you did here. I have no idea how to draw bubbles, but I would just make them smaller and less contrasty, so they're not so distracting. But other than that, this is pretty good. I would just get rid of those shapes and made them smaller. Yeah. Other than that, this is, I would probably maybe flipped it like this. And maybe, I don't know, like he's grasping for something. This, I'm not sure how hard it'll be to get rid of this hand. But maybe we'll just do a hand like this that is swimming. He's trying to swim away really, really fast, and he's like, versus like, or maybe it's already too late for him. But it looks like this hand is maybe out of perspective a little bit. I tried to battle it last time, but it almost looks like it needs to be something like this maybe, because then it's a little bit more in par with the thing. But I don't know. The hand is the only thing that is kind of bothering me. Other than that, everything is pretty solid. So I either would simplify it to something like this, where he's swimming away, right? Or took more reference, and then, because it looks like, I know that it's just like he has a giant hand like this in front of him. And I know that most of the things are like that when we're doing comicses. But it looks like another thing is like it's too low. It's almost like if we have a side views, like his hand goes down and then up, and then looks like this. But then if it's see, as you can see here, you have your shape go here with the arm, and then it looks like if I would, it's like he's Elastic Man. You know, this thing goes like this, and he has his arm like this, a little bit weird, right? Like if he was going like this, you know, his shoulder would have been here, and probably the arm itself, maybe, you know, maybe the position of the arm, that's what throws us off. So technically, if the hand was here, it would probably been somewhere, you know, it would been probably somewhere here, right? And look how much more depth this is adding right away. Yeah, that was the problem, right? As you can see here, now we have the correct perspective, and then I think the trick works much better, because now he's really reaching out for the camera, right? Yeah, so I think that's the problem, and you can move the whole guy a little bit down now. I think that's the problem that was with this hand. So if you just fix this and maybe move the whole guy with this hand a little bit, you know, down, something like this, that will sell the trick completely. Yeah, but other than that, there's a little tweaks, and you're doing great. You're doing great. We miss you, Julie. Please get well soon. But good job. I'll even add 100. Right. All right. Let's look at Irina. It's maybe the most complex work I drew. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Last time you updated it, I saw some mistakes, but then I think you corrected them. Like last time I like that you're doing everything with kind of like texturized things. It looks something that I would do, or maybe Toby would do. I like it. The only thing that I'm thinking about is it's probably the position of this thing completely repeats this diagonal. Maybe it's for compositional purposes that you want to do this, and he's like pointing at it, but I think it's a little bit, you know, maybe I'll just do it at another angle, something like this. But then it's kind of pointing up. Maybe it's fine. Maybe don't do it. But then another thing, like this thing is pointing somewhere. And the thing is, like, your whole composition is it's not circular. It doesn't bring you back. It's like your composition goes whoa, and then shoo, just you know, shoots away. You know, and then I know you have a stopper in here, but then when you have those kind of very, you know, when you have those very, very strong, hey, thank you, Boris. Can you please revisit my previous homework? I just didn't realize we can post fixes of our previous homework for feedback. It's too late, forget it. Aw, thank you, Boris. Thank you. It's like, I'm wearing professional tweeters. Thank you, Boris, for $4.99. Guys, you really don't have to do this, you know. You know, just spend that $4.99 on boosting our server, okay? Please, and just watch it. We're already monetized. You don't need to donate. But it does make me feel very good. Thank you. Yeah, Boris just paid for my coffee today. You're the best, guys. You're the best. But please, no more. Just go boost our server, okay? I think it'll be more, or I'll just boost the server with that money. What do I want to do with you guys? Another thing that I think about this painting is, you know, to make it even more, to make it circular, because a good composition is when you are going and then you're brought back, and then you discover more things in it, that it's a whole world in there. So one thing that I'm thinking of that may be good to try out is maybe just flipping this ship this way, like this, right? Why? Well, because if we're gonna do this, just by flipping the ship backwards, we have an interesting relationship now, and then we can, you know, make this background a little bit lighter to
to help it out, and then maybe we can add a few details here or something, right? Because if we flip it this way, and again, maybe this is, you need to experiment more with it, but what's gonna happen is we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna go here, and we're gonna go back here, right? We can add a few things here, but then our position of the ship is forcing us to go back and experience the painting again versus going wah, and that's it. Unless we want to have some kind of a focal point here, right? If we have like a dude standing here and be like, hey, what's up? You know, or we have like a few creatures here, or we have something else, because this thing is pointing somewhere. Yeah, so does he do all the feedback for free? He could do all just for his Patreon, like many other artists. Yeah. We in Valhalla for Artists, we're trying to make, you know, education possible for everybody. But I did promise only to do it to 5 people. But you know, people are working hard, so why not? Another thing that you can do is you can cut this away, so it's not as a strong of a guideline. And this way, as you can see, because this is a weaker shape, because what you guys need to understand that this will attract our eye here, because on a psychological level it is dangerous. We're attracted to pointy things, and then if we curve it up a little bit, we are getting rid of it, and now our composition doesn't shoot away and actually curves backwards. And if we add a little something, we can go back into this thing and have something like this. Yeah, so that's the only thing that really needs something. Another thing, like, I would just add some weird creatures in there, you know, just some flying bird. Another thing is pay attention to amount of detail. Like, for example, you have this detail here, but then you also have the same amount of detail here. What I would do is I would make this branch fatter like this, and then more into the distance, right? Because now all we pay attention to is this detail right here. And again, guys, when I'm feedbacking one person, I am feedbacking all of you, so you guys can learn from it. That's another thing, detail, right? As you can see, I made this shape fatter and not the same shape as here. So now we're only paying attention to this thing. But another thing is we don't need to pay attention to this thing. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make this thing a little bit fatter, and then this thing a little bit fatter, right? Now they're equally important, and now I'm only paying attention here. If I wanted to do even more, I can do, you know, a shape that is very thin here, and now I'm paying attention here. So that's another thing. Shape variation, again, that's the Incredibles metaphor that I was like, if everyone is super, no one is super. If everything is the same as this thing, this is equally as important. But if we make this fatter, and this is the only thing that is has most detail and most contrast, this becomes instantly more interesting. Yeah, and yeah, just make sure that your shapes are, you know, more round, so we don't shoot away from just go wee from the painting, because it's nice if we have circular motion. Like another thing, you can add, you know, you can add a cloud that also gonna add to that we are going back. But the thing is, we have nothing to go back for. Like, for example, you can add, like, you can have, another thing is you add in too much detail here, here, and here. Like, I would even, you know, I would put it even more into the rock itself, so it's part of it. So the only detail that you have is over here. And I would even, you know, I really like what you did with highlights in here. Sorry guys, this is just a very good example for you guys, because there's not many things that I need to retouch, but at the same time you can learn a lot from this. And I would just, you know, I would emphasize the, you know, the highlights that you painted here, here, and here. And with those highlights, you can bring it even more attention to your focal points, right? So now the composition is not singing, but then by just adding a little bit of highlights, then I get accent colors, you can get very nice things. Another thing is you can experiment more with shades of saturated blue in here, so it's really sings. Yeah, just squint your eyes and see what distracts. So for example, there's a dark spot here, so we can, you know, we can get rid of it. And now we're only paying attention to the ship, and that's what under it. So it's very important to squint your eyes and understand what goes where. Yeah. There will be maybe a possibility of a Patreon support there. Yeah, we will maybe have Patreon later on, but don't worry about it yet, guys. My mind just got blown because I didn't even see that the thing up there was like ship house thing. I thought it was just like a glass hodgepodge treehouse. Sparkles and where to add them. Yep. Sparkles are great, guys. Sparkles are great. Then another thing is like for even more depth, you can, you know, you can totally, you know, push this even farther away. Something like this. Same thing here for more depth. And here you can have a lot of volumetrics. Here you can have volumetric light. So now if we just compare this, let's see, let's have this and this. Let's see the difference if I made it worse. There's a big possibility I did. But yeah, I know maybe I should have elongated this a little bit more, but you got the main thing, right? We are right now, first of all, we made accent colors where we need to. Maybe this guy needs to have a little bit of highlight on his back, maybe. Because the girl has it, but the guy doesn't, so maybe we can have a little bit of it like on his back and maybe like on his staff here, I don't know, right? But for the most part, what we did is, first of all, the composition doesn't shoot into the corner. Right, let me just do this. Whoops. So let me just do this, just elongate it just a little bit, because I did kind of change it up a little bit. But what we did is, first of all, right, we made sure that we had some accents with saturation, right? Crap. Yeah, we have some accents with saturation. We add some volumetrics. Then we simplified the root to the left. I deleted a little bit, and then yeah, it doesn't shoot. So hopefully this is helpful. All right, next. All right, I saw a lot of battle with this one, and this one is really hard even for me to paint over. I will get to your painting back, Boris. If I made it worse, there's a big possibility I did. Confidence is key, Misha. Well, I'm pretty confident that what I was saying, but you know, you always need to push back and forth and see. And then again, some choices are not like, I don't know what Irina wanted to do, and then I just need to double check if I'm not, you know, skewing up her vision for the painting. So first of all, first thing first, you know, why this? This is called a tangent. Tangents are not good. What? Oh. We are masters of our canvases. So if you run out of space, you know, you can always, so let's just do this. You can move a painting like this. Another thing is like, this panda, this poor panda, he's like, first of all, I'm not sure if he's like a part of like a, you know, part of a Mexican cartel of wizards. He's so confident. He's like, you shall not pass. And he's just standing there, you know, just doesn't give a flipping nothing that this thing is just approaching him. Unless it's his pet. He's like, yeah, freaking wolf, just, yeah, look at my staff, and I'm gonna either suck you into it, or I don't know. So first thing first, when you have something going on your painting, make sure that you use your space the right way. And then I like that this guy's going from top right and he's kind of at the bottom left, right? But another thing is, like, I know that the wolf is going at him. I would just go crazy with the fog. And another thing is your fog is a color of I would call it like it's almost like a piss color, which is not very good. I don't think piss color looks good. So make sure you always have, you know, clean, interesting colors. It's really good contrast ratio what you're doing, but like I would start something like this, and then I would make the pose of the guy kind of like, if I was making his pose, like he needs to have like, you know, he needs to be either this, and then I would just always pose for it. So if I was this guy, I would be like, you know, I would probably do something like this maybe, or something like this, and then his back hand, or he's like, he needs to be like standing, he's like, you know, yeah, you know, and have it something like this, you know, when he's like really, you know, he's fighting it. Because right now this guy is like, hey, look at this. He's just, you know, this guy part of a Mexican wizard cartel. He just comes in, just puts it in, he's just, you know, wiggle around, and this guy's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And you know, you have to be part of the moment. If this thing was charging me, you know, I would not have been standing like this, you know. And if you have, you know, the personality of your panda, now I think that my keyframe is absolutely bad. No, it's not bad. I'm just telling you what to fix. It is really good where it was, but again, mistakes are awesome. So I'm just gonna tell you how you can make it better. So if you want to make it even more epic, right? And this wolf is really coming at this guy, I would just do like, you know, like I would really push it, you know, like he's really going for this guy, you know, and he's really, I don't know, jumping for him, you know. And I would do, I think you already had it to a degree. 1 second, let me do this. I really like this gesture. But another thing is you have 3 focal points right here. So you have 3 focal points. I like that you introduced some purple, but this yellow, I'm not sure if you did it with an overlay, and that's why it's so all over the place. But I would just made the smoke a cleaner color, a much cleaner color. Like I would just go, and then you see you are in very saturated yellows. I don't like, I'm not sure, it's just not my colors, I guess. Maybe I'm wrong. But what I would do is I would just had a cleaner white fog, you know, maybe something like this, you know, and then I added the purples, because right now you have like those dark blacks and then purples, and they create a little bit of mud. I think I'm not gonna do anything with the wolf because he's pretty cool, aside maybe I just saw his facial expression. So is he about to be killed? Dasha? Is he about to be killed, or he's about to be like consumed by this staff? And why is there a wolf over here? Because here's the main thing. So you have focal point of panda. You have second focal point that is much bigger than panda. So actually this reads as focal point 1, focal point 2, and focal point 3. Panda becomes almost a third focal point. Because if we turn this into black and white thing, right? Squint. What do you see from far away? Like, what do you see from far away? Your values are amazing if you use them right. So for example, look what's gonna happen if we're gonna delete, if I'm gonna delete this. Now what we have is, we have this as the focal point, and this is a second focal point. But the panda is still a third focal point. It's a friend who got captured by darkness. Oh, he's healed? Okay. So first of all, let's just turn this into black and white, and I'll show you a trick. So first of all, let's let's get rid of this, and let's get rid of this, and let's get rid of this. Where those things are, right? Look, right now I have only the panda, right? And then I have no staff, and I have, right now we're looking at panda. So another thing is, like, I would have changed the position of his hat. Something like this. So we can have a clear silhouette of his face here. It's just gonna be a color ball. Because when we have all this space over here, where we're gonna be looking? Into the panda's face. So let's see, this is the panda, right? So now we have a clear representation of his face, his facial expressions, right? And then I would just do, I would do the staff, something like this, but a little bit, or on the same, but I will not make it too glowy. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. It's gonna be coming from here, something like this. Where is it? Yeah. And then we need to fill in this spot over here. And let's make this a little bit like this. And another thing that we can do is we can have more light emitting around the panda here. So we can have to know where he's standing, because he's standing on the, he's standing on the grass itself. And he has his nose over here, he can be yelling. Maybe not. Yeah, and I think this can be more ethereal a little bit here and here. So, and then the facial expression of this guy is, he's like, help me. Like, let's see the whole picture. This is the second one. I need to see. Can you just DM me the first picture that you did, so I can connect those two? So, like, if we would just, let's just have a black and white layer on top of everything. Color. So, like, right now, as you can see from far away, we don't really look at the panda that much. We look at this giant wolf head and then the wolf. But here, we look at the panda, and especially if we, like, we can highlight his face a little bit, and we can highlight here, for example. We're going to be looking just at the panda, and then we can have a little bit of, we can cheat a little bit of light here, and we'll be looking just at the wolf, and then the hard part about this, it sees a head and reminds him about who he is. Well, see, that's the thing. I think remember when I told you about how we construct our paintings? It has to be a simple statement. And we have to understand that we cannot show everything with just one image. Another thing is, like, needs a little bit more of a working spot over here, a little bit more breathing space over here. Because the thing is, you just told me, and he gets reminded of who he is, and he and his entire life flashes back in front of his face. But the viewer doesn't know that. I don't know that, and I feedback to you for a long time in terms of your keyframes, and I would never guessed. So that means if the viewer cannot guess, then you need to either make more frames explaining what's going behind this. You need to have a flashback scene and everything else. Like right now, to me, this looks like, we kind of need like almost like a comic book bubble, that shows us what's going on. Because right now it looks like this guy is just attacking, this guy is giving him the good juju, Yeah, don't be sorry. It's good that you are making mistakes. it's really good that you're making mistakes, and this is my job to make sure that you are not making them anymore, right? Another thing is like this hat is too detailed, right? Because when you have too much detail, it breeds attention. Look what's happened if when I'm gonna simplify it, right? We don't look at it anymore, right? This is good. I like the hat overall, and this is super simple, right? But put detail only where you need to. So for example, this is where the detail needs to go, so you can do like a bunch of, you know, pixie dust or something like that. Like how you see that this is a very hard painting, what you're trying to tell, and sometimes it's impossible to tell everything with one painting. You need to have other multiple paintings to really think about it. Like for example, if you want to show this wolf to be like, oh, this reminds me of my past, maybe you need a shot where he's like about to, you know, consume him, the panda, and then we zoom into his eye, and then we have a flashback where he's like a little cub, and then the next shot he's transformed into a little wolf and they hug, for example, right? So this, again, simple statement. So what is this all about? The panda is giving some good juju to this guy, and then he's slowly changing. So what you can do is maybe is, you know, kind of have this thing envelop this guy, and maybe you can show that maybe he's changing. But I think this is the part where he's running and about to attack this guy, and he's kind of like, oh, something. Well, it looks like it's a very scary wolf that is like about he realizes he's about to be executed. He's like, oh no, and then you know the next shot is, you know, the panda is like, you shall not pass, and then you know, and then we see a little cub emerging from the smoke, right? Did you DM me your previous frames? Yes. All right. So this is the last one. Yep, that's the one that I'm going to feedback on right now. Yeah, need to remove the Mexican vibe. Yes. Again, it's associative thinking. Like for me, those hats, like like if you had like those little dangly things, it's totally a Mexican wizard fighting wolves. It's a Mexican panda wizard, and maybe maybe that's what you were going for, but you really went far away from where you were. This is the last one, but can you give me the previous ones with the panda? Maybe you need one last keyframe explaining, because for me it looks like he's fighting the great evil. But yeah, make sure that, and again, like for example, here your contrast values were a little bit too far apart, and here I'm adding a little bit of spill light, because you're gonna have a lot of atmosphere, and that's where you're gonna get all of those things. And you can also add, smoke. How do you call a foreground smoke? Yeah, here you can add a little bit of foreground smoke. Yeah, perfect. Now everything, it makes sense, guys. I think this is perfect what you're doing. So then after this, oh come on, Discord, give me ability to do this. After this frame, you're gonna have this frame. It's almost like this beast is going after them, and it's about to go, and then he's like, and then he embraces a little wolf that now is part of him. Yeah, you don't need to remind anyone with this graphic. Remove it, make it simpler. Just have him run, and then when you're gonna have this, just make sure it mimics this composition. Maybe mimic the same motion as this guy had, and it's like embraces in the hug. And this is perfect, honestly. This is perfect. I love it a lot. Yeah, just make sure that the color of yellow that you're using here is not so darn yellow, because it's a little bit toxic yellow. It needs to be, peach warm, but not so saturated yellow. Like this is not a good color for me. Yeah, but yeah, it has swirl thingy in there. It's curled my eyes, making it into a sphere shape. Now you get it. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to kind of make this a more wizardy curly thing, so maybe do something like like this, and maybe make the hat like this. Then it would be a wizard hat. But the whole story is very cute and awesome. And then when I said piss colors, not because I don't like your story, it's because the color that I'm describing the color. The story is super awesome. You've come really far from where it was, and now it just needs final, final adjustments. But I think this looks pretty cool. Like honestly, if we would just, just go with an overlay layer on top of everything, maybe just a little bit like this, and we just, make everything bluish like this, and then we're gonna have, a little bit of this warm color that he's enveloping the thing. It's not perfect. Let's see. And you have some purples here and there. It'll work pretty good. I'm sorry that it's a little bit rough, but you know what I'm saying. I think your purples that you had in your painting are pretty good. Yeah, for the highlight of the mouth, I like it. Just again, it's like coffee foam. It needs a little bit more pure. I like that you added purples in here, but like with this, like maybe replace it with a more of a pure white type of a thing, but not so yellow. Yeah, but overall very nice. Yeah, no problem. But you're super close. You're very close. Maybe you can maybe make a screenshot of this. You can of course add more. Like if you still want to have some focal points, just add some butterfly magic or something to make it more wholesome, and maybe like flowers blooming all around the panda as he's using this magic. If you want to make it a little bit more complicated, but again, our focal point, our story needs to be clear. Nothing has to distract, and then I always start with my focal point first, and then I add anything. Like if my painting will have room for detail, I do add it, and if I don't, I don't. Sorry, I kind of stayed on this thing for a little bit too long. Yeah, but I think this is a good lesson for everybody. All right, next. All right, let's go. Oh my. We're still scrolling. Right. All right, this one is tricky. We'll have to go at super speed now because so I survived. So one thing that I can tell you is, this silhouette is too interesting of the guy. But our main focal point is what? Our main focal point is the girl fighting the beast, right? But right now, the focal point that we see from far away is what? The beast's face, because of so much dark and contrast. So what we can do, right? We can just make this whole thing much darker, right? And just by, separating the values a little bit. Another thing is that she is warm in here, and I like that. It's super nice. You can see her silhouette. But I would just make the eyes of this guy a little bit more threatening. You can make it less orange. You can make it more towards reds, and that's gonna add a little bit more, whatchamacallit, it's gonna add a little bit more threat. And the same thing, you can have a little bit of bounce light on this creature, bouncing from the ground. And this way, they're both the focal point, and we are looking here. Because the thing is, when you have too much contrast, see this arm, and then the relationship of this dark and this, we're looking here. Contrast attacks well, yeah, attacks our eye. But then if we make the contrast a little bit less, your job is to make the viewer look here. So do that, right? Another thing is like, maybe let's, we can lie about how dark it is. So her silhouette is a little bit better, and then we can add even a more contrasty shadow here. Then everything leads to our focal point. And then if I were you, I would probably also add a little bit of bloom in between them, like there's lots of atmosphere. So it's really like this. So now we look at the girl and we look at the creature's eye and we see that she is trying to combat it. And then you can always like, you know, fog and then fire looking things are also nice. So you can add a little bit of like, you know, ethereal things. And now it looks like it's alive, all right? And then if you want, you can always add a little bit of highlights here if you want with blue. So the characters in here have a little bit of a rim light, and some things here have a little bit of a rim light. See, Irina. Maybe we can have a little bit of volumetrics in here, going like this. But honestly, this is such a spooky shot that I would just, you know, I would have very low rim light thing over here, that everything is positioned around this, and then everything that catches the, you know, the light is pointing towards our focal point. It's almost like, yes, you have fill light, but it's on like 20%, and then the main light is this, because just let's compare this to this. You see the difference, right? For where we're looking now and we're looking here, right? We need to fight. We're like magicians. We need to fight for a focal point. Yeah, but it's pretty awesome. I like it. You did it. You are, again, one thing that I want to point out, you're using pure blacks a lot, and probably because you painted with a multiply layer. Try, because I can see those. I see those, whatchamacallit, low opacity, very, you know, low opacity brush strokes. So it's gonna help you if you just can lasso tool your guy and then just fill it in with a color and then see what it looks like. And don't work with the multiply so much because it can really muddy up your colors. Yeah, but overall very nice. Right, carrot guy. Hey Nico. Right, updated the first keyframe with the feedback from last session, keyframe 2. Okay, nice. Nothing to say here. I like it. Very nice. I like the foreshadowing. And then this one, I like that he looks here. It's pretty nice. But one thing that oh man, it fits my resolution almost perfectly. Like what I would do here, I would just do this. I would make this thing, you know, bigger. It's like right here, you know, and maybe more in the shadow. And then you also, what you can do is you can work with a depth of field. I'm not sure if you want to, you know, if you want to hide this thing or not hide it. But another thing, it kind of feels like, yeah, we have this guy, but I would make this guy almost like, because right now this doesn't look like the main focal point, and a lot of things in here are empty. So I'm not sure if the feeling has to be like he's spying on the spooder, or there's a bunch of spooders leading to the bigger spooders over there. So for example, if this little spooder, you know, it's a whole army of them and they are attracted to a giant spooder, you know, I would just make, you know, a shadow of another spooder, or, you know, I would do a shadow of a bigger spooder with light over here. That is foreshadowing, and even maybe like added some light over here spilling in that this thing, and then I would just make this spooder actually smaller. And maybe, you know, if you want to show that maybe all those spiders are attracted to something else, maybe they're all going somewhere and the danger is over there. There are a bunch of on the walls and the floor. Is there? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you need to make it much, you know, visible. So if they're here, you know, you need to show that they're going in the screen. you know, if you have them here, you need to show that they're going like this, and like they're like a giant ant army that is going. It needs to be much clearer, because right now this picture reads like this: there's a guy, there's a spooder, and he's sitting on the wall, and he's very contrasting. That's it. Like, I would get rid of this spider, and this is already getting more interesting for me. Why? Well, because there's a giant glowing thing, and this guy's like, what's in there? But then if you're also gonna do a bunch of spooders going into it, kind of like this, and maybe they're also glowing, or like this, and there's a bunch of them, you know, there's a crazy amount of them out of focus, and they're all crawling into that space. First of all, look creepy, and then secondly, the story is much better. So what I would do if I were you, I would just do a bunch of guidelines, and then I would just do a bunch of rhythms of spider crawling in there, because this doesn't read as a bunch of spiders going to the thing. It's just this guy is spying on this one spider, and he's like, God, dude, just want to pee, just leave me alone. You know, he has such a cool face. By the way, cool chromatic aberration, right? Yeah, that's about it. Yeah. Yeah, but I like the story. But it's very nice. That's the only thing that you need to do. Right. Heiko, ladies and gentlemen, this is keyframe number 5. Sentence. Daily exercises that goes from Cody's body, but its presence is unexpectedly powerful. Okay. So again, if we have something glowing, and then you have this super, you know, dark illustration that he's exercising her, like, I would just do, you know, I would just make everything about that simple statement, right? And I would just, you know, if they're really glowing, they're really glowing, and it's all about the glow, and it's all about this. You know, I might add a little bit of like volumetrics in there to pop her out. So maybe we'll need to do, you know, this to make her pop more. So there's going to be like light in between them, right? Something like this, right? But we need to understand our simple statement is that everything's on fire, right? Everything's on fire. So make everything on fire. Make everything being affected by the fire, and make that your main focal point, right? I cast fireball. Yeah, because the thing is, you need to crank your simple statement on 500%, right? If it's glowing, it's really glowing, right? If it's scary, it's very scary. If this is an exorcism thing and it's spooky, you know, make it very spooky. Make some red hues in there that, you know, this is scary. Another thing is that I would even, you know, it looks like the chick that he's exercising, whoever he's exercising, I'm not sure. Is just, you know, oh yeah, okay, that's another thing. So there's a guy laying in here that is absolutely lost for me. So I would, you know, emphasize him more, and then maybe show his silhouette or something, because right now he doesn't read at all. So this person is not reading at all. So you either need to, you know, have a little bit of a break in between here, so his silhouette is more visible, you know, either by rim light or something else. Or you need to, you know, have, I would say this scene is lacking a little bit of intensity. Like if I was being exercised, like my body would have, you know, contorted into, you know, something like this, and then he's like really in pain type of a deal. And then you can also do like, you know, this, and maybe the ghost is coming from that. I don't know. It's like this scene is a little bit more intensity, because right now he's just, you know, he's just sleeping, he's chilling. Yeah, but it's a nice start. Just more intensity. And like if this is a secondary focal point and she's the first one, I don't feel that she's been anxious, like she needs to be more in pain, like maybe even, you know, have her entire body kind of going like this, and then, you know, have her arm going like this. She's like, no, and then she's like, ah! You know, that she's being tortured, right? She's going out of it. I don't know, because right now she's just standing. Like either has to be more threatening, or like, yeah, or yeah, like this, because this is intense, but then this is not supporting the intensity. Yeah. The ghost saw spider. But it's a nice frame. It's a very nice frame. Yeah, and then the rest is super awesome. The story reads awesome. I love it. Okay. Like. Is that a dead unicorn meme from the last lecture? Are you guys making fun of my... Oh man, why do we have so many unicorns now? All right, new create frame. Awesome, this is much better after when it was before. I like it. I'm gonna tell you one thing. You are, again, doing too many details. This guy doesn't need so many details. For example, the ribbon here, so I'm just gonna do a fast paint over here. So a ribbon here, it's not gonna be readable. So what I would do is I would just have a gradient in there, just like you had before, and I would just have, you know, I would just have two. I know this looks bad, but I would just have, you need to simplify things, because it's not readable from far away what those details are. And you need to learn how to simplify things. Like, for example, this guy is big enough to understand what he consists of, but this guy is so small, from far away, it just goes into mush. So, for example, here, you need to understand what you can get away with. So, for example, here, just simplify everything into, you know, something like this. Because from far away, it will look a little bit better. Maybe just, you know, have, you know, like have bigger shapes. Don't have 1,000 little furs. Have like 3, for example. That from a far away are gonna look good. Because the thing is, you are always tempted to over detail, and you probably were painting this zoomed in like this, right? But for example, this thing technically can be, you know, simplified into a line. This can be simplified to a line. This can be simplified into a shape like this, maybe with one little thing, right? This thing can be simplified into this, right? And then it has a line across it that is the, you know, the thing over here. And then it, you know, simplification is the hardest thing. But if you will learn how to do it from far away, sorry, I'm butchering it a little bit, but this is even a little bit more readable from far away than what you have. Maybe not completely. Again, this is really hard. I need to spend some more time on it. So you either have to have so much detail in this guy. You need to make him, you know, this is the level of detailization if he's like here, right? Because farther away the focal point goes, more detail it loses it. Like what you did over here. I love that you simplified this. This is awesome, right? This is awesome. I like that you brought more detail here, and you have less detail here, and then here you have overboard detail. That is awesome. You have the most detail in her. This is really good, right? But then the main guy, you know, I'm looking at it from here, from super far away, and it just needs to be simpler. I don't know if it has a nose. Yeah, it has a nose. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, maybe there's just no other way to do it other than this. And this is, you know, this is the most that you are going away with in terms of detail, and then you try to do that. But there's like a huge cluster, especially like with his dark value over here. Like his helmet doesn't read as well as I would want to. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's just my... When I look at this like up close, maybe I just need to have a little bit of like value over here. So, because the thing is, if I turn this into black and white, maybe that's my problem. yeah, like this is really good readable, but then this doesn't read. So maybe this whole helmet you can cheat off it and then just have it overall a little bit brighter, so we can see the mask a little bit better. But you know, this is me nitpicking. I really like the creature. I love the creature design. I love what you did with horns over here, and then I love the crazy level of detail here and there. I would read this comic 100%. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. And then good job on simplifying your trees. I think this is the way to do it. Honestly, maybe you could have even, like, you can even lose a little bit more of a detail here overall to make it even more just about him, right? But I like it the way you have it right now. So I think let's call it finished. It's pretty near perfect in my opinion. So probably if I would did it, maybe I would have, yeah, the line work's crazy. But see, like, maybe it is the values, because I'm looking at your line work over here. Yeah, I'm looking at your line work over here. I like the level of detail in there. So probably it's just you overcomplicated with the contrast to left side. So I'll just lift it up a little bit. Another thing, maybe the position of the sword. I don't know, because it's, maybe that's why you did it, because it was a white sword on top of a white mask. So maybe what you can do is you can maybe have a sword sticking out of the creature like this, and we can actually show that he did it, and he can have his arm, you know, holding the sword, and she got him mid-act. And then what we can do is we can have the contrast back for the horns like this, and this is a better read, a more iconic read, because we're gonna be looking here onto his horns, and then he's gonna be holding his sword over here, and then it's also gonna be acting as a, you know, as a guideline. I don't know. This is just my 2 cents. Hopefully it helps. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Oh, I love it. Life is pain and I love it. Okay. I like it. Honestly, this is not bad. This is not a bad start. The only thing is that, you know, I would even, you know, because the thing is, her focal point is her right side. I would just move it something like this. Maybe it could be a cool poster actually if you had only one part of it, and then you had some kind of title over here. But one thing that I would do is you either need to add a fill light of a different color into her shadows. So something like, you know, something like this, you know, emphasizing her left side. And then you need some fill light over there to describe the forms there. So it could be either this, it could be, you know, whoops, it could be this, it could be, you know, something like this. And you need to make sure that the forms are readable. So again, simplify everything to simple things, and then see where the light hits her. So if the light was over here, right, it's going to be doing something like this onto her entire body. So what you need to do is you need to understand your lighting setup. But I think you need a little bit of either this, or you can add like a rim light behind her to pop her out of the background, right? Or what you can do is, unless, I think it's a pretty cool lighting setup that you have everything in the back going to pure black. But the thing is, you need to somehow probably add more interest in the thing. So you either need to have like a, you know, you can have a gradient behind, and there's maybe like, it could be cool guards standing lit by the light behind her, for example, and she's going into the torchlight, for example. There's gonna be a bunch of detail behind her, right? But if you have nothing in there, there still needs to be some kind of information. So if you want to make it spooky, you can have like her goons, you know, being affected by the light a little bit, and they're standing behind her, something, you know, something like this, just to, you know, just to populate the shot a little bit. But if it's solely her, where is she? So if it's solely her, and another thing is, I think you have a little bit of weird framing, yeah. So another thing, pay attention to one thing. It's, so you have your middle of the frame, right? You have your middle of the frame. She's not in the middle of it. That's, and you need to use your focal. So again, like if we look at like rule of thirds, she's a little bit skewed to the right, right? So if I was doing this painting, I would probably have a more vertical thing, something like this, and something is missing, something like a point of interest is missing. Like if you want to have a twist to her, you know, you can have, you know, her looking with one of her eyes is closed off, like she's regular, right? The other one is open and it's very spooky, for example. And then you can have some kind of like, you know, a cool, you know, magical thing in her arm, for example, maybe also glowing, and maybe, I don't know, glowing red, for example. If it's glowing red, what you can do is you can add more lighting to her, because right now what is lacking is a little bit of like, what is this all about? This is a nice, like, you're improving a lot, like, but you're lacking a, you know, you are lacking a focal point in what is going on in there. So for example, if she's doing something like this, now we know where to look, because there's all kinds of contrast in the world, right? If she is like, if she just, so if I was you, maybe I would just lift it up just a little bit, something like this. If she just came into the room and she's lit up by, you know, by a torchlight, you know, she definitely needs a little bit more of a feel light and more contrast in her, where it's coming from. So if the light is coming from the bottom, let's make it really coming from the bottom. So what I'm trying to accomplish is when you turn it into black and white, oh whoops, saturation. So right now you have something like this and nothing's going on at all. We need some kind of points of interest. So for example, we can have maybe a medallion that is interesting over here and has, you know, maybe the sun emblem or something like that. This adds a focal point and more interest, and it's not so boring anymore, right? If we add the thing that I did with a stick and a creepy lighting, it's a whole nother story. And then if we have something like, maybe, again, I sort of recommend that you add a little bit of a fill light on the right side. You know, maybe you can make it super spooky, and, you know, on the left she's a skeleton or something. There just needs to be more to the idea than, you know, if it's a frame, you know, if it's a frame, it needs to be, you know, if it's a frame, it needs to be something like this. Maybe you can have torch lights over here, and she's like exhaling because a bunch of, you know, guys are here to sacrifice her or something, or she's part of the ritual. She has all kinds of rim light. There just needs to be more about, like, what's the story, what's your simple statement. You're definitely improving in terms of like texture and then face structures and values, and I like what you're doing, but like framing is weird. What's the story? This is not enough. It's like an image out of context. Yeah. Yeah, appreciate your criticism and compliments, people. Yeah, and again, guys, this is me feedbacking so you can level up, because you guys know that I'm for you, I'm not against you. I'm trying to level up your paintings, but you're advancing forward. This is not like, maybe it's because it's so graphic, it's not muddy, but you're slowly but steady. Like, for example, one thing that I want to point out that is good about this image, you really nailed the rhythm. Like, for example, here, this rhythm is very interesting. Why? Because it's slowly going towards the focal point. You are increasing the detail as it goes to the focal point, and then you're decreasing it as it goes away from the focal point. Then you also have these things that are pointing to her face. You have detail over here, right? It just needs, like, for example, detail here, and then maybe I need the other eye to see. Or if you want to go a little bit more intense, then, you know, just do a Rembrandt, you know, very dark type of a lighting scenario when, you know, everything is like comic book style type of a deal. You know, if you want to go too graphic, see, like this is more intense now, and it's interesting, right? I don't know, I like glowing eyes a lot. this is like, but you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. All right, next. And I'll look at your dragon borders that you reposted later on. Okay, cool. I like what you're doing. I like that. Super nice. But again, like, oh, whoops. Man, Discord is so stupid. I don't know why I just cannot copy images and paste them in. So for example, here, right, you have your light coming from the back. And then you kind of, the temperatures are fine, man. Like the temperatures that you're doing are fine. But again, if the lighting is coming from the back, you know, if it's coming from the back, then the entire background is going to be blown out. Because the light's coming from the back. It's going to have this, going to have this, going to have that. Yeah, and the only thing that this guy is going to have, he's going to be lit up by what? By the bounce light coming from the top of the sky dome, and then doing something like this, right? And then maybe we can have a little bit of bounce light coming from the road or something. But again, like reference, because let's see if I ruined the painting or didn't. Yeah, because right now I would even say that the lighting here, like, what are you trying to say with this thing? It's like, if he's a cool guy that is, you know, that is writing, like, if I was doing this painting, I would probably, you know, I would probably take this guy, and then I would have just Googled badass people riding on a motorcycle. And then I would have made, so let's see, this is gonna be his wheel. I would have made the, you know, I would have made the horizon line very low, something like this. And then I would have made, you know, the road going into the perspective, kind of like this, right? And then if you want to kind of have like a badass moment, I would probably, you know, because it's kind of hooks into what you have later on, because you have a night scene, right? What you can do is you can do, you know, bad guys don't look at explosions. You know, this guy is like, oh, hello. Then you can have like, you know, a sun coming from over here. You can have a bunch of trees here. And if you wanted to, you could have, you know, cool lighting effect over here of him riding on the road. And then, you know, I would have added a bunch of, you know, kind of like action lines of him riding really fast. When good, you know, he's like talking to his boss, and he's like, "All right, let's go." And maybe there's some shine, like his glasses, and then it's all rim lighted. That's like one way to do it, but this is very rough. But definitely, if I were you, I would definitely made, you know, I would have used my space much better, because right now this is kind of a little bit of a weird framing. Even though I like your, you know, I like your things here, and another thing that we could have done, like we can still make a city behind him, right? You are already on the right track in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. You just need to have more of a visual library of framing and everything else from cinematography and everything. Like we can easily turn this into buildings, and buildings can have little windows reflecting things, right? And all of this can be technically, you know, on the horizon, really far away in the perspective. Yeah, and we can have long shadows here. Yeah, so maybe it's too late for you to change the composition, but I would try definitely. But if it's all about the facial expression, right? I would really look at comics and everything else, because this guy is like, oh yeah, you need me, like I would always again kind of do it 150%, and then I would always like for his mouth I'll be like, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, did I do just absolutely the same facial expression? But what I would do is like and I think I would do with this guy, because you kind of give him like this kind of like Rambo vibe. I would have given him like a like a double chin, and he's like this Bruce Willis kind of like double chin guy. Where he's like, oh yeah, maybe even a cigar, kind of like Wolverine style. And then if you want to like really like push it, like I would do an explosion behind with that sunset where he's just like running away. He's like, oh yeah, you need me. All right, let's go. And he gets ambushed. Yeah. So something like that. And then this is pretty good, again, like if this was like a comic book that is in this style, it looks pretty well. I think just, the style is pretty consistent, so continue on. With this image, just make sure you, like, if it's a graphic style, just, make sure you have some details left in here, so it's just this white. And then with this thing that is kind of glowing, I'm not sure why there's water coming out of it. Not sure what the simple statement is. Just make the shapes as clear as possible, like what we are looking at. Yeah, and research some comics. Okay, spoiler. Becomes the Resocan, another spoiler. I struggle with lighting again. It's supposed to be a morning in the canyon. Probably everything will be much darker for the third keyframe. Clean up every version. I think it looks quite okay. And the next week I'm going to write 2 keyframes to clarify our story a bit. Yeah, guys, another thing is, this is a bad reference. And I'm gonna explain why this is a bad reference, because it's overblown. Like there's big amount of white in there, and there's not a, like, you have to understand that photographers make bad pictures. If you want to see what good pictures are, I'm gonna show you this one really good Instagram. I need to first find it. I think his name is, what's his name? I need to find it first. I'm sorry. I'm trying, but this is really good reference for lighting scenarios for filmographers in general. Just need to see it. I mean, I like so many things on Instagram. I'm not sure if I can find it. I will find it though. Come on. I'm scrolling. I keep scrolling. Okay, I found a really good ref for like morning for you. Like I'm gonna post it in a Homework 9 channel. Like when you have mornings, right? Like look at this. Like there's orange sunset. There's clear separation of values everywhere. Aha, found him. It's Florian Alpetit. So this guy, he has a lot of really good photos that are color graded very interesting. Maybe it's on the lower spectrum of contrast, but he has like very, like, look at this. He has clear silhouettes. He has clear saturations where he puts them. He has really good photos in general. So when you're looking at photography, see, nothing's blown out. The shapes are all clear, and then the focal point is clear. So this guy's name is Al Petit Florian. He was a lighting supervisor on the... I'll link it right now. Hey, Ilya, hello. Yeah, it's a really good reference for good photography. Maybe it's not as dramatic as people really like, but he really pays attention to good lighting setups. As you can see, silhouette clear, framing. It's not blown out. You have good rim light, and then you have good compositions. And he's really doing it from a painter's perspective when he does it. So look at that, and then if you want to have any lighting reference, just go there. You know, and he has his own website. If you go to his website, you'll have like hundreds upon hundreds. Like, look at this. This is so good, right? This is so good. So follow good photographers. Like, look at this. Yes, this is a low value range, right? It's a good value range for a high key painting, right? And then like look at this. This is amazing. His compositions are on point. His photography is amazing. Like slice of life type of a deal. Like look at this. Of course he color corrects them, but this is great. So yeah, go follow him, please. Like look at this. Clear separation. Okay, here's his website. His website. It's in the description now. Yeah, like look at those values here. Like look at those shapes. I love his photography, and I really strongly recommend go and follow him and study his work and find reference that look good, because he's doing photography from artistic perspective. Okay, let's have a 30-second break because I need to go to the bathroom, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'll be back. I'm back. All right, let me stretch out a little bit. Okay, let's go. I would say he has a good film and color grading. Yeah, and well, the reason why I like him is because he's very cinematic. Not illustration, very cinematic, and I try to keep my images pretty cinematic, I guess. And yeah, he's great. All right, change keyframe 1 and 4 to feedback, and then another one showing final battle. Choose middle shot to show confrontation that the main character comes from the light side, the middle one from the dark side. Also rethink the concept of color progression through the story. I agree with Misha. So the idea right now that at the beginning we have a dark gloomy world, during the story will become brighter, which is showing change in the main here in the world. Ooh, okay, big brain. Cool. All right. Okay, I'm not gonna touch this anymore, I think, because I think you already pushed it to the level that you can. Here, like, I would probably maybe have a little bit of a gradient behind the character. So not only his eye is glowing, which is pretty cool, but also that his silhouette is readable. Or what I would do is should have mentioned probably the previous few previous. So like this thing, it's either, you know, you can make the entire thing kind of like this. Then we see the face of the guy. He's kind of like, ah! He's doing everything. He's like punched it by this, or we just need to add a little bit of a gradient behind him, right? So everything is a little bit more readable in terms of his silhouette, right? And overall kind of form, right? Like I would say that probably just needs just a little bit more light in here, because I know you had it in the beginning, but so we kind of have it like this, and then from the behind you can actually, like, you know, you can have those windows but shining onto the back of the creature, kind of like this. Yeah, other than that, it's pretty good. I think you already pushed it. Like this one is the MVP. I think you did very well here. One thing that I can say that, you know, make sure that everything is readable. So what you need to do is you need to get rid of some of the contrasts of the cave and then bring the values together a little bit. So the actual, you know, so the actual silhouette of the man, the balls in his hands, you know, reads a little bit better. But I like it. You know, another thing what you can do is, like, you have a little bit of orange here. It'll be kind of cool to have a little bit of, you know, that orange fill. Maybe a little bit of here and here and here. Oh, you know what? No, probably not. Then I would just probably, you know, make a gradient on those shadow things, so they don't distract and they lead up to those things. That's pretty great. And then this, okay, you move the guy, cool. Maybe add another pillar over here so he's framed a little bit better. Oh, you do have a pillar here. Maybe you just do it like this, or maybe not. Maybe just, you know, just add some kind of like construction things in here where they at, and or maybe some kind of like, you know, some kind of a cool, you know, mechanical kind of Tron, like your thing looks like Tron. So just make sure maybe you have some kind of like circuit like rhythm of this thing, because it's too empty right now in there. It needs some structure. Yeah, and this is pretty cool. I guess he took his tail, right? He got his tail. Oh, okay, so like if I was like when you're thinking about your compositions and you're thinking about your, you know, your poses, like first of all, it looks like you ran out of space, right? Because there's no reason that your sword should be out of frame. That's his sword has to be out of frame, right? You guys are, you know, you can resize your canvas, you can make things smaller. You're not bound to one specific resolution, right? And you don't have to fit things in there. So another thing that I'm gonna tell you here is that, you know, even though you have the correct lighting behind those characters, it's too bright. So either make it darker behind them, you know, or make them, you know, their shadow side and more a little bit like this, because this is a very high key painting that you're doing. So that, you know, the shadows here, 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 and then the shadows on the floor. That's the thing. You are robbing yourself of cool things to do with those poses. So if I was doing this painting, right, and I'll just quickly paint over those guys, right? If I was doing this, again, like if you want a close-up, do a close-up. If you want to do the poses, do poses. Like if I was doing this first, like I think that there should be a fight, and then this fight should be iconic. So if they were fighting, like you showing him grabbing the guy's tail, that's interesting because they're kind of interacting, but it's not enough in my opinion. So if I was painting this painting, I would probably just, you know, I would have because another thing is, if you fill this thing with as silhouettes, so that's another thing when you're doing any kind of action pose, try to fill in everything as a silhouette and look how it looks. And if it's not readable what they're doing, right? If it's not readable and it's confusing, like this is a good beginning, but it's a little bit weird. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take whatever you have. No, let's make it like this, and I'm gonna quickly try to change. So our context is blue, right? And then let's just work with our silhouette. I don't like this tail. I don't like this. I don't like this. I really like what you have with the gesture of him jumping, you know, and having a sword in his hand. So I would just emphasize that. And he's kind of like a ninja. He's like, wah! You know. And then he has a sword in his left hand. So maybe I'll just do the sword like this. I'm sure how it looks, but I'm gonna just do a regular sword right now. And then maybe I would just do this, you know. Let's just take away this guy for now and then just focus on this guy because he's the bad guy, right? And then maybe I would just even do, you know, the regular thing when he has a sword behind his head and he's like about to swing it, right? Because remember, you have to understand what we went through all of this. This is called gesture, right? Gesture is when you have one continuous line going like this. And then what you can do is you can technically make it better. So if he has, you know, tails behind him, you can either make it about the tails, you know, and they're about to strike this guy. He's like a scorpion, right? He's about to strike them. And this thing is gonna, you know, it's gonna support our gesture, right? It can go maybe, well, no, this looks weird. I mean, it can go like this, or he can only have two of them, right? Or one in the background somewhere, right? He's about to strike with all his might. And the other guy is like, he's also about to, you know, strike him, and he's like, you know, maybe here we can have him grab one of his tails if we want to, and then he's gonna be like, and he's holding the sword and he's like, I'm about to strike you, right? And then, you know, maybe half of his body is not there, or, you know, he does something. See, we need to see how one thing goes into another. So if we do something like this, right? I think it's ruining the rhythm of everything, because we need to understand that, let's say this is going like this, and then his pose has to pick up the motion of this thing, right? So I'm gonna change it like this now. Why? Because now there's rhythm, there's interesting things. Maybe he's like, he has his other arm kind of, you know, kind of like this, being prepared or something. So it's really important to keep everything very gestural and understand what's going on. So like he can be, you know, standing on one leg, maybe. I don't know. Gesture is really hard. Maybe he's running away, or he's like, but hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. Maybe we can have him like, because another thing, we can have him in the foreground, right? It doesn't have to be. It can be like this. He's going after him. So I think this looks better than what's our first silhouette was. So let's just compare those two, right? So let's compare mine to yours, and this is not me to flex, this is me so you can understand what's going on, right? So with yours, what's going on? Well, you have, first of all, 2 lines coming out of his crotch in this area. This was really cool gesture that was going into this guy, but it was interacting. But then let's look at mine. I have one gesture that is going like this, and then the other ones are going like this, and then it's a circular, so there's more motion going through stuff. Yeah. Spider gonna need some therapy after sessions. What's happening in the background? Oh, my wife is working on the it's all right. It's a iSimilar construction builder simulator. The thing is we live in an unfinished place, and my wife we have reduced rent for working on the apartment that we're at. It's okay. It's okay. They can suffer through it.
Sorry.
No need to apologize. All right, but overall, good job. All right, Kirk's. I finally got a chance to draw again. Was away doing and still our thesis here. My keyframe decided to change that from previous one, week 3. Kirk's. Okay, cool. Just push the background more into the distance. Overall, I like it. Very solid. Here, it's a little bit weird. Why? Well, you have the lighting here purple, but they are blue. And then you have orange, so I would just do the entire foreground blue. It's a very easy fix. No, crap. Stupid Discord. Yeah, so all you need to do is just, lasso everything in here. And then, make everything like this. And then probably I would just do something with the background. I'm not sure if you're using 3D. It looks like you're using 3D in the background. I'm not sure if that's correct. Maybe it just looks 3D, but like the background, like either make it darker, because if it's a bar scene, it has to be something like that. But it's too noisy, and it looks weird that you have it like that. So if I were you, I would just, replace it with a cityscape, because I have no idea where they're at. Maybe the next keyframe is gonna explain it. Yeah, this is cool, but again, I know that you're a pretty confident artist, so just just push forward. It looks unfinished, needs to be pushed forward. But yeah, the only thing that is weird is this thing. It's like they're at almost like a sci-fi bar, and they have a bunch of blues and everything else, but it's a sunset scene, and this blue is not connecting to the scene. So yeah, look at Cyberpunk, and look at maybe Arcane. Yeah, how do we think to be middle character is right lit and the side characters are left lit? Yeah, well, again, it's a nice beginning, but it's not very logical at the moment. Where the light's coming from needs to be more consistent. All right. Okay. Let's see, Alyona. Okay. So, Alyosha. So, first thing first. Why those poor mud people have no local colors? Like, I can see that you used a lot of overlay in here. Everything is overexposed. If it's that overexposed, we'll then go to pure white where your sun is. But again, all I want to do is I want to get the contrast down, darken it up a bit, merge it together. And then where you're doing your lighting with an overlay or color dodge, again, look at the Florian website that we just looked at. Let's look at the sunset. This is what the sunset looks like, right? Things don't, some things get hit by light, some don't, but you overexpose stuff a lot, and then you lost a lot of local colors. For example, what are those houses? Why are they orange? you know, you also might need a little bit of middle ground things. It looks like you didn't have a really good reference for color, and right now I'll be repainting everything from scratch for you. So what you need to do is you need to go find a good reference and then copy it to a T. Because again, you weren't working from a reference, you were like, there's a lot of tangents. So for example, guys, for you guys, like there's a tangent here where all this is leading to this place, but there's nothing there. Why is it leading there, right? This is overexposed. I don't understand what the local colors of this house is, and then the middle ground is pretty much empty, and then yeah, it needs to be planned a little bit more. It looks like you rushed it a lot, really fastly. So yeah, it just needs more love and more reference. I don't want to paint it for you because yeah, it's time to end the story. It's time to stop. All right, let's go. For how long we've been going already? Let me see. 2 hours and 45 minutes. Oh my god, today we're pretty detailed. Feedback session. I can do it. All right, let's see what's going on. I want to see the entire story now. So, a long time ago, someone came from a portal or something. And that led to super cool civilization. I don't know. And then, no. I don't know. Maybe this guy's just living in the house of a thing. And they have a super cool civilization. But once they found a weird creature. And they're like, what the hell is that? And then the guy fell asleep. And then super weird grass things started to emerge. And he started to document it. I'm not sure. But then they killed everybody. Or is it goes like, does it go top to bottom, left to right, or goes like this? Yeah, weird a little bit. I'm not sure if it's in order. Flip the pick. Is it like this? Ah, okay. Cool. Long time ago, they found a weird creature. And they had a head. I'm not sure if the head is bloodied or if it's a helmet. And then he made a helmet out of it, and then they all made helmets out of it. But then, you know, some weird creature came in a weird thing, and then he either took a photo of it, or he made a bomb out of it, or they killed the creature. And out of the creature, weird tentacles start to emerge, and he was all alone. He's like, oh, all my people are dead. And then he's so sad. And then what he started doing when he got old, he started chopping all those things and made cool juice out of it. Yeah, Misha here casually racing an ultra marathon of feedback. It's okay, guys. You have no idea how I can go. There's a joke among artists. Artists can go all night long. So I can go for a long time with that stuff. Honestly, the only thing that I have in this thing is this is a great mood piece, and it makes me question a lot of things, and I have no idea what's going on. And it's not necessarily bad because it still makes me question what's gonna, you know, samagon. Yeah, samagon out of the things. But it still makes me question what the hell happened. And it gives me Star Wars vibes. I think it's perfect, honestly. I don't have any questions. I think you are finished. I think you need to, you know, organize everything to one good ArtStation post, and then if you want to do something extra, sure, but I think this is fine. You did an amazing job. You did 9 frames, and they all pretty good, and you have your own style. I'm proud of you. Very nice. Good job, Katya. Very nice. All right, Graham. All right, he made the background a little bit brighter. Cool. Yeah, just needs to work on a little bit of form more. It looks like you didn't have enough time to finish all of that up. It just needs more love, you know, work on the faces a little bit, dimensions. Yeah, for here, you know, lose some of the detail here because they're so contrasty. It's really easy to do. All you have to do is, you know, merge the values a little bit together, something like this. You know, you can cheat it with atmosphere because you kind of have one half this, one half that, you know, and then when you're going to be merging that a little bit. You know, we're gonna be paying attention to the front. Another thing is I think it lacks a little bit of depth. So you need to either maybe like add a shelf in the foreground with things sticking out of it. Maybe something here. I don't know. It just needs something for depth for this thing. Yeah, and it kind of looks like the whole painting, even now that it's at this state, needs to be moved like here, and then have more of that, you know, things coming to this guy, because it's all about him. Why do I have so much information about this guy? Yeah, so it's like you need more space. Like, see the difference here? It's like something is happening off screen and it's not that important. Here we're emphasizing the story more. The name of the artist, it's Katerina Ulyanova. Very nice. I think she has ArtStation maybe linked, maybe not. No, but it's super solid. It's a really cool story. So yeah, Graham, just reframe it. Needs a little bit more love. It looks like you just don't have enough time, you know, and hopefully the 2 weeks that will provide for you to finish it will be fine. The story continues as the Okinson clan finds themselves between worlds, trapped in the air bubble by the mighty Sea King. Are they dead? What will their be fate? Only Keyframe 3 will tell. It's cool. Okay, cool. Air bubble, awesome. Again, control your blacks, control everything else. If it's like a comic book, cool. I like that you planned everything like this. But again, like if you're going for a more stylized look, like Mike Mignola, right? And then you have just them as silhouettes, you know, embrace it. You know, don't have, like, you have so many, like, why do you need to do this? And sure, like, you know, if you have the stairs, have them black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white. If you're going for stylized Mike and Mignola style, you know, just make it stylized like this. Like if you have a shadow, you know, don't have any detail in the shadow. You know, just go simplify it to a silhouette. That's it. You know, don't have any detail anymore over there. Have it super stylized, right? If you have something white behind this guy, you know, make it almost like a solid circle behind him, right? Because the comic book style is that, you know. And another thing is like control your darks, control your lights. Like I think it's a little bit too contrasty. What I would do is I would do this, and then I would just go in, and then where the focal points are, I'll just bring back the contrast, right? You have to control them so we know where we need to look, right? Because when you have too many dark things, like, because I'm gonna turn all of this into black and white, and I'm gonna explain what's going on. Another thing is framing. Like nothing is going on in the foreground here, so you know, just maybe add fishes or something in the foreground to, you know, hide the emptiness, so it has depth, right? And then like I'm gonna show you the black and white version of this thing, right? Maybe it's not too bad, right? But you know, his hands are absolutely, you know, they go into nothingness. So you know, if our paintings are all about silhouettes, make it, you know, as clear as possible that this guy is right here and he's about to screw them over, right? And then inside these guys, like you have so many textures. Like I'm not sure if you have some kind of filter or you were photo bashing something on top of it, because this is not really something stylized and comic booky. This is not, you know, this is not realistic. Like find a reference and stick to it. This is my number one thing. I like that you're experimenting. What does it say? I'm the Sea King. You have died. Should I send you to Valhalla or should I spare your life? You have shown great courage. Ooh, great and mighty king, you may take my life, but please spare my twin sons. I could eat you. Let us see what Odin, the All-Father, has to say about these. I have no idea why he has like a Swartz name.
I always I always hesitate to pronounce the Terminator Terminator's name out loud because with my accent it sounds wrong. Yeah, just pick a reference, Mike Mignola, or some comic book, and like right now this is not framed. Like, why does he have something on the left or on the right? Like this is framed weird. When you have a vertical thing, it's kind of look cool for the bubble sake. But like I would use this place, like maybe have a bubble with a twist here, and then it shows here. So you use the space correctly because comic book layout pages, it's very important. But good job. All right, Shambanek. Super cool thing, See, and you said you're a 3D artist, you can do anything, and it's so cool that you can do this with your stuff. This is super awesome. You have VFX, you have all the things. Like the only thing that I would add in this thing, and it's maybe probably just you're gonna add it through Photoshop. It just have volumetric, kind of volumetric fog, going all the way through, because right now you have very dark darks here. They need to be a little bit lifted, and then maybe have like more particle effects here, and there, and maybe the god rays for the cow. Maybe you can have certain parts of the cow a little bit more, contrasty, just so we see it. And then on the face of the guy, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty awesome. Awesome. I'm so cringe. What's that show called, Luba? Hi, I'm Elfo. Hi, I'm Elfo. What's the show? Unfortunate Events? I don't remember. I miss Misha, Viking Sounds. Please, we need more. My bum hurts. Why are you so mean to me? 5 years later. Yeah, I don't know what to do with this anymore, dude. It's pretty awesome. The only thing, what I can say is, maybe we can have, more contrast for this guy, even though it doesn't make sense. Just the fall off is going to be a little bit like this. Yeah, this document is becoming a little bit unreasonable. Yeah, but I would definitely not crush the shadows in here as much. I would, I'll just have more contrast on this guy, or I would just, punch in. I would just, even though there's a fall off, I'll just punch in this, maybe, with a little bit of bloom effect. I'm not sure. Maybe even here a little bit. Maybe we can do something like this, or even, maybe it would be kind of nice to have a little bit of, weird. I think it would be nice to have a little bit of weird blue light coming in and have it colored, so it intensifies, and we'd see that it's not, there's not only the white light, but maybe there's a blue light. I don't know. It just needs to extra oomph in there. But man, the cinematography is great. The shot himself is great. The storytelling is there. It's pretty awesome. Maybe I would add, a few hay bales like here and here, also being lifted up, like this, so we can have something to connect to for a better composition, that it kind of goes up. Maybe a hay bale here, a hay bale there, that just lifting up. Because for me, just the grass is not enough a little bit. But other than that, dude, it's pretty cool. I love it. Yeah, it's super great. In terms of the only thing that's I don't remember what's gonna happen after, because he's gonna throw this thing
you know, for more drama, what you can have the, you know, you can have the cow with like a little vest, and it's tied in to the tractor, right? You know, and then he's like pulling the tractor back to save his cows, you know, and then he's taking this, and it would be cool if you could have like maybe TNT, you know, TNT wrapped up to this. I don't know, but it's like, the thing is, yeah, I love this, that he's like, and he needs to throw it, but then what's gonna happen next? There's a rope, like, I'm not sure. He's definitely gonna blow the cow. Like, if the cow is like wrapped up with TNT and then he needs to throw, I don't know, but it needs something, like either wrapped up TNT, or there needs connection that he's trying to save the cow, right? Like, he's just in the tractor sitting there and doing nothing while he's in the tractor, so we need to justify it. He either pulling it back, right? Or like maybe there's a few cows who are connected together and he was like waiting for this moment. That's the only thing that needs more story. In terms of like image making, this is pretty freaking cool. One thing I would maybe suggest to you is like maybe in the 3D itself, when you're going to be doing, just, you know, amp up subsurface scattering, or maybe paint it in even. And then, like, for example, here you have some bounce light. Maybe you can paint in the bounce light a little bit more, so the cow is more defined, right? I think the cow has a little bit of green bounce light right now, probably because you have green grass under her. Maybe you can emphasize that a little bit. But other than that, this is pretty sweet and great. I love it. Maybe add another god ray, like over here, to also connect it to the guy, maybe. And maybe, you know, what you can do is you can add multiple, maybe you can add multiple lights in there, or you can, I don't know, maybe you can have some green highlights in here that define a little bit of the ship, but we can't really tell what it is, because this way this looks a little bit more alien, right? Like if we have some kind of like a ring of thing that goes, right, it goes, and then the ship is like boom, boom, boom. It's gonna be epic, right? It just needs a little bit of something like that. Yeah, hopefully it helps. Yeah. All right, next. I didn't have enough time to finish. Okay, same problem. More definition in terms of form. I like it. I like that you added this. Super cool. I'm not gonna say anything. You're a great artist. I think you're on the right track. I'm not gonna tell you anything, except for maybe, you know, have more reflections on their armor and make this guy as a focal point more clear. Maybe you have to extend the cloth over here so he pops more. Maybe you need to add some kind of more contrasty skull. This guy needs to pop out a little bit more, because if you, like, I like that you have his hand over here on top of this thing, right? But you need to pop him more. And then also you can have more definition of form with a top fill green light on top of this, and it's gonna be epic. Other than that, it's pretty good. Yeah, just make sure you control your noise, because right now you can very clearly make this too noisy, because you have noise here, you have noise here, you have noise in the background. Make sure you simplify your shapes into something doable. All right, first done. Thought it took a while. I really enjoyed rendering this. Okay, let's see. Okay, cool. A little bit confused what the lighting setup in here is. Oh, whoops. So this character is definitely looking at the window, but what's happening on the other side of the window? Is the light blue in there? Is this character looking at crystal? Is it sky? Is it clouds? Right? There's a little bit not enough context. Like is there clouds behind? Right? And then is it in the middle of the day? It's a little bit weird. So if it's in the middle of the day, then well, everything has to be like this. So I'm lacking context. I'm not sure, right? But one thing that I can tell you for sure, that like if this thing is shining, first of all, the light appears blue. So if the light appears blue, right, we need to show that the entire character is actually, affected by the blue light. Like the hair is going to be affected by the blue light, the face is going to be affected by the blue light, everything's going to be affected by the blue light. If the light is white, like see, like this thing has no form because nothing is hitting the front, there's no mid-tone. If this is like an anime style type of a thing, then you need to have indication of light. Right now, all I see, there's a light that is positioned here for some reason, and this character is looking that way, right? Well, maybe it should have been reflecting in their eyes, right? Something like this. And again, if their light is hitting this character, you need to have the shadow side of the character, because that's the only light source that I can see right now, and everything else doesn't make sense. So yeah, first of all, the image is interesting, but it lacks context. Like for me, like where is the characters looking and why? So for example, if you had like a cityscape, or an interesting cityscape, like, or a castle, we can tell that the character is going to be looking, well, there, right? And it's in the context, and we're doing something. But again, like, is this city exploding? Like, what is it doing? There's a lot of questions. For me, this painting would have worked much better if honestly, if we didn't even have a window in there, and then the character was just looking at some kind of thing, and then the character was actually like under like a yellow light, and then we'll have some kind of a candle. Yeah, so a lot of things out of context. And yeah, but the thing is, if it's your first homework, you are posting this. You're posting this in the wrong chat. I think if you're doing all your 3 keyframes, you have to go through the entire camp. Yeah. So guys who are behind, I'm sorry, but I have limited resources, and I'm feedbacking people who have been there from the start to the finish line, because they deserve it. Right, Vengeance falls and drops the crystal, danger approaches. Okay, let's see. Right, I need to delete all of this because the document starts to lag out. And you know what? Let's look this like this. Okay, cool. So first of all, where's the lighting coming from? I'm gonna tell you this, that you can definitely have more values over here. She can be much darker. Interesting photo bashing technique stuff, but she can definitely be a little bit darker because she gets lost in the background. Another thing is, like, when the darkness is approaching, I have a lot of jokes about anime stuff, but I'm not gonna do it. I would probably do this, I don't know. Another thing, this is a little bit too saturated, so let's lose the saturation a little bit. Maybe, I don't know, maybe make it smaller. Okay, then we need to connect the character to the crystal a little bit better. See, again guys, when I'm doing a painting, we're doing a paint over, it's not that I know of the answers, I just know that something is wrong, and I always need to test something out. So don't be afraid to go and test a bunch of stuff in your painting. Let's have this. So I need to have more of a connection to the character, and then I probably would just do this. You know, I would just do what Julie did actually. You know, like she's about to grab it, maybe even, you know, maybe even something like this. And then the behind the scenes is, let's do this, and then let's flip her face backwards so she's looking at the thing. And then actually sorry I'm messing up your painting a lot, but you know, let's lose the facial features here. And then let's imagine that their hand is positioning in the right. You know what? Let's go back. You know what? I just want to make this thing a close-up, just in general. Or maybe not. But the thing is, here you have, my dilemma is this: you have a lot of facial expressions on her face. Maybe this is fine. Maybe all we need to work on right now is the background. Okay, let's just delete this thing. Yeah, this is definitely too saturated. I think this needs to be kind of like in the shadow almost, and maybe with a few snow things, and maybe we can show that this thing dropped or something with snow, and then maybe behind. You can show the tentacle looking things also catching top light on top of them actually, but we need some kind of a threat. And I don't remember how the creature actually looked like, but I would just do some kind of a silhouette behind her that is emerging out of shadows. It's a very tricky painting, especially because you have monochrome and it's basically black and white, and then you have the crystal that is like bright red that needs to be balanced out. Like, my hunch on what you need to do here is actually pretty drastic, but let's see if this works. Something like this. Because now they're balanced out in terms of contrast. Honestly, another thing that I would do, I would just probably, I would just add more ground plane. Maybe I'm wrong. Because if this is shot just about her and all about the crystal, we can have interesting things in terms of like foreground elements around the crystal. Like this. Maybe the contrast needs to be something like this, not too much. And then she needs more, I think. Another thing is, like, you did some photo bashing in here, and that needs to be fixed. And also what I would do is, like, if you're having such a dramatic, you know, if you have such a dramatic lighting, like, I would simplify, you know, the shadows underneath her, and then have like one eye that is like, you know, there's like, oh no, there's like, or you know what, maybe everything is gonna be in shadow. I think everything in shadow does help out, and then it's gonna be the most contrasty thing. What's the story behind this crystal? Did she steal it from the creature? What's going on in there? Yeah. I painted everything. Well, you painted everything too much, man. There's too much detail in there. It's crazy. Another thing that we need to have kind of like a sense of danger. So maybe why not have... Why are you not painting? Thank you. Maybe we can have like, you know... we can have spikes everywhere or something, so we can feel that, something is not right. And I still kind of want, what I want to do is here, I just still want to make the girdle a little bit closer to this whole thing. Have a terrified face, and then I know this is going to be rough, but I want a terrified face on her, right? That is like something's going on, right? And then she's about to be dragged off. She's like, she goes in there, even if the darkness is approaching. Because the thing is, we need to show that the crystal is the only hope that the girl has, right? So what I would do actually, I would make the girl absolutely closer, and then what I will do is maybe the red crystal can tint everything red, in this way the crystal is going to be like, this guy behind. Of course you need to indicate that there's a shadow side, but and then also we need to connect her, so maybe there's some things, and she's like doing her last thing, but then maybe there's eyes behind her. Maybe there's can be some kind of weird symbol that is chasing her, and then we can see the mouth, or I don't know, a bunch of stuff. And it's like, this is my last hope, because this is more dreadful. We either do that, or we need to add like blood type of a thing, that all her friends died. So I think this one is pretty good in terms of showing she just wandered into like a dark part of the crystal. Or what we can do is we can show that the shadow is approaching, right? And she has like, maybe, but no, I kind of like something like this. I don't know why contrast is so good. It's kind of cool how sharp you did her. Well, yeah, it's just me making the things a little bit different. What we can do is like, we can show that she's alone in the shadows, and then like the surrounding is a little bit lighter in certain parts, and the light is still coming from, because the thing is, you kind of have light in the beginning of your story, but then I think it needs to get gloomier and gloomier. I think every shot can be darker and darker as the darkness approaches, and then that's only her and the crystal, and then she gets destroyed. Yeah. So this is my 2 cents, what you can do next. Okay, I add 2 more keyframes to make the story clear. I think that in the end I will find it as the first picture. Okay, cool. A dragon is attacking. Yeah, is it dragging him? I'm not sure. Or he maybe he jumped off. I'm not sure. And then he's getting to the thing. Cool, very children's-like illustration. Okay, so his house gets destroyed. He goes on an adventure. They pull up some kind of magic crystal. They face the dragon. He gives the crystal back, and everyone is like, "Yay, cool!" Right. One thing, Julia. Make sure you don't use so much pure white, and don't use so many overlay things. Other than that, cool, and get some reference for time of day, especially for the last shot, because you have a lot of yellows, overlays, all of that. You're pretty good with contrasts, but you need to make sure that you have a good time of day reference. So not everything is so, candy-like everywhere, because there's blue, there's purples, make sure that you have a good time of day reference, but overall good. Okay, so for Colleen, I think here, this is a good frame. I like it. It's in, it's a good frame. I like it, but right now it looks like this thing, I then need to be either closer to the frame, because it looks like they're about to smash into the shore, but they're too big. It's like those things are too small, but I think you want it to be epic and awesome. So either make the boat smaller or make them more into the foreground. Kind of like, you know, kind of like this. Even that kind of looks like they're too small or too big. Like it looks like they need to be much smaller. Like they're arriving something like this or something else. And I'm not sure if you need to, you know, have these as your. I would even repaint this thing that they're already standing on the shore and the boat is behind them. They're like, oh, this is so huge and awesome. And we kind of keep a mystery of what they're looking at, right? Yeah, because like I would even keep this because this is mysterious and awesome. Where did they arrive? And then we have them standing and the boat is already there. And if they're super little, we're like, wow, this is huge and awesome. Because you already have a lot of shots that they're in the boat, and I would just give them on the shore again, and then I would just have a little bit of the kind of water line over here, and then I'll have the dolls be super huge to sell the thing, and then I'll keep this as a mystery frame before this frame. So we're like, oh, what is it? And then they're already on the island. All right, keyframe 2. Spots the green out, someone more in their way, and thinks about exploring it despite the group's wish not to. Okay, maybe have overdone this, but there's a redo of the second keyframe. Apologize that I couldn't get around to the revisions for the first keyframe. Hope to revise them all at once when I finish the third one. Okay, so this is a big improvement from what it was. Context is awesome. The only thing again is like if the only thing that is shining in your frame, right, is your, oh, this kind of looks cool. If the only thing that is shining in your frame is the whatchamacallit, are the windows, right? Make sure that they are shining, right? You need to have darkness for things to shine, right? You need value range for things to shine, and then, you know, spill onto the things. And another thing is, are those lights strong enough to make her appear lit by those things? Well, if yes, that means you need to have very strong light coming from them that is going to create all of those things. And then she needs to have this on her, right? But for me, it looks like this, the light is not strong enough to do that. And there's two lighting setups. One is the moon that is going to be kind of like lighting her up, and there's a little bit of moon light is going to be over here, right? And the second one is there's going to be a bunch of shapes from this thing. And what we can do is we can do the classic Spielberg thing when there's like, you know, there's volumetric light coming from the moon, right? So again, you just need to, this is a little bit too green and yellowish for a night scene, right? It needs a little bit more contrast and more love. And just, again, understand where your light is coming from, how many of you have. So if you have the moon and the yellow light, there's such thing as fall off, right? Fall off. The light is not shooting for infinites, right? It can stop somewhere here. So the light is going to be here, and then the rest is going to be the moonlight, for example, right? So just keep in mind where your light bulbs are. But overall, nice. The temperatures are correct. You just need to push further. All right. Veep worked on those two keyframes. I'ma try to finish it tomorrow and work on the fourth keyframe after. Okay. Cool. It looks like either here or here there needs to be something. I'm not sure. This is too empty. It's kind of cool. I like it, but it needs a little bit more character in terms of, like, you know, maybe sticking knives or something. It looks like this elbow is covering this chick a little bit, I would have moved her here, because right now it looks like the focal point is here and not the chick. So I will do it right here. And then here, it's pretty cool and awesome. I like it. I like this guy a lot. But again, your focal point looks like you just need to move the girl. Like if I were you, I would have just did this, right? And I would had the light for all of them, join them as one focal point, then looking at the one cross. Because the problem with your thing is that you have you almost have two compositions. You have so much empty space over here that is not overtaken by anything, and then you have another composition on the right, and they're all looking there. So what I want to do is join this and join this and join them together, because it looks like there's two different paintings happening at the same time. But overall, very nice. You're good at rendering. Composition needs a little bit of work, but you got this. Right, keyframe 2. It's supposed to be an aquarium that breaks and floods the hull when the main character takes a relic. I hope to revise this in the previous keyframe with better designs for all the elements. Okay, let's see. Again, let me do this. This is a cool idea, but it's telling me at the moment almost nothing, right? So you have mermaids. So you have mermaids in the focal point. If the mermaids are the important focal point, make the mermaid bigger in the foreground, yeah, and make her darker so her silhouette is readable, right? If the kid's facial expression that you have here is super important, well, again, where do we put our Mr. Cameraman, right? He's running away from something, we need to show him really, really close to the camera to give the viewer enough information to understand what's happening. Another thing, the cube doesn't have any lighting, so I would add lighting within the cube, that is something is going through it, so we have some kind of subsurface stuff in the water and then reflecting everywhere, right? Then to make sure that your focal point is readable, that the boy is as readable as possible. Yeah, it just needs more love, but the idea is great. Okay, one shot is not completed, but I managed to get pretty far with others. This we can get the colors down for all of them. I'm very happy with this process. Okay, cool. All right, so you got the colors in, but first, did you get reference? You have the the light, but it's not shining. So if you have the moon shining, again, where the light is, there's darkness. It's very poetic, right? So I would just do this. If you have light shining, make it shine. If you want to make it shine green, sure, make it shine green, right? And then you'll have fall off of that light too. So if this is the moon, okay, say this is the moon and it's shining. I would do the moon behind or even off screen for this thing, because again, focal point, it will distract us. And then you're gonna have either rim light on those guys by this light, right? And then it's gonna be something probably like this on the water. But the thing is, you have to understand that you have the mermaid shining, and that's the most important thing, right? So if the mermaid is shining, start with the mermaid. Start with the mermaid shining, and then again, why she's at the bottom of the frame? If you want to do things correctly, we'll either do this, or something like this, for example, right? Let's imagine she's over there, right? We need to make sure that she's shining, so she's gonna have a lot of light around her, and then there's gonna be light, in the water, and there's gonna be a lot of, subsurface scattering on the water because she's shining and she's the main thing. Look at this. This already looks like she's illuminating light, right? And then we're gonna have a little bit of it on the boat, right? And then we're gonna have a little bit on the guy. And if the guy has some kind of interesting light, maybe let's make it green. So he shines completely. So now it's spooky and weird, and we're looking in the right part of the painting. And honestly, do you really need the background at all? Like, why? Because the thing is, our simple statement is this: we can have it super secluded, right? It's a nice beginning. It's a very nice beginning. Then, like, we can have indication of this of his house in the background if we want to, right? But this is a much clearer statement, right? So, for example, if we just, you know, if we just look at this and this, and then again, why you guys are using, you know, the space so inefficiently in your paintings. Then we can have, you know, we can have foreground waves, background waves. Yeah, and she's inviting him over. Now the painting kind of works much better. Of course, we need to have some contrast. That's when his, you know, his face is gonna have shadows, and now it looks a little bit more creepy. It's like, what the hell's gonna happen, you know, type of a deal. And then it's just it's a more clear statement than this, right? Yeah, and then same thing has to, like, and it's gonna connect to this one better. But here I'm gonna tell you the same thing. Where there's light, there's darkness, and light has fall off, and you have it in the middle of the night. And then you can really get inspired by Julie's painting, you know. Yes, there's his boat somewhere over there. What you can do is you can tie it in with a green light, and then there's boat waving in the thing, and then maybe there's like a little indication that it's over there. But then there's complete darkness, and now he's totally lit up only by her light over here, right? And it's interesting and awesome. So you need to do the same thing there. And then with this one is a little bit more trickier, right? Because you have, again, for some reason the aspect ratio changed, and you should keep it the same. So if you had so much on the right, keep it on the right, right? So you have foreground elements, keep them foreground elements, you know, and then you have something here, keep them there. But another thing is they are both dead now, as I understand, right? And the thing is, for some reason, they're pretty far away from the focal point. We cannot figure out what's going on. So what we need to do, I'm gonna compliment you on the gesture. Gesture is amazing. I love it. Super cool, right? But I make him, you know, why they're so far away? Make him something like this. And they're very, you know, they're ghosts. They're pretty, you know, they're pretty white. They're pretty contrasty, right? And that means your contrast has to be what? Light against dark, right? So the same thing, like if they're going to be lighting things with their spirit stuff, you know, they are the light source, and then everything else is going to be, you know, not so important. Of course, we need to figure out how to make the dog pop, and maybe we'll do something like this. But what you have to understand, where there's light, there's darkness. So right now you have too much light everywhere. What you need to do is you need to start with a simple statement. A simple statement is it's dark against light, because those are the ghosts. Start with that, eliminate the whole thing and all of the objects with their light, and then see if you even need to put any light through windows. Okay? He's not dead yet. Okay. But then if the ghost is alive, then that means he's going to be regular local colors and she's been shining on him, right? But it's okay. You're doing tremendous progress. I know the colors is like, I have very high standards for you guys, and you have to understand that. And I am commenting on those things because someone has to say that. Okay. Some tweaks according to the feedback, blah, 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 blah. All right, let's see. Okay. All right. Rendering is cool. Not sure what the final thing is. Yeah, I like it. I like the temperatures. Just make sure you don't overcomplicate things, and make sure that your focal points are clear in terms of saturation. Because right now you have, when everything is saturated, nothing is saturated, right? So for example, you have those, you know, little spirits over here. You can add color variety to them just by adding different shades of green and blue. to make them more interesting and more vibrant, as you can see here, right? Same thing here. You have a clear focal point, which is this. Make them brighter so they look from far away better. And maybe, another thing is that I don't see is that they emit light. And if they emit light, do something like this. And if you want more drama and you want to show what's going on, you can have a little bit of fall off in the light, so they are emitting light and you can see that, right? This thing is fine. This thing is fine. The only thing is that I never figure out that this is actually a dog, and I'm not sure what's happening in here. I know the claw went somewhere, but I'm not sure where that somewhere is. There's no connection. Like, did it go into one of those guys? Did it went to some kind of a dude? I am not sure, right? And now he's deconstructing something, or the mask fall off. I'm not sure what this is. Like, he destroyed him, but the thing is, this guy didn't have anything on him, so I'm not sure what's happening over there. Another thing, everything is so red. Like, those guys are turning kind of purple, but you know what? I would just show an indication that maybe they were blue, but now, and then you kind of tried it, but we need to connect that this guy is destroying them, and then maybe added a little bit more of those things, because everything is a little bit too monochrome for my liking. Yeah, the dog itself is pretty interesting and awesome. I'm just a little bit what you might call it, in here I would have had him riding the dog over here, not so close up. I would have him over here riding the dog, and then launching his claws at something, and then them turning into that, because I really want to see the dog and the thing riding him as an establishing shot, because here you're already showing him up close, so why have him here, have him over there, and then have us see the entire dog in its entire glory. And then when it's in this phase, and it's super cool, I love how well you painted the shapes. But the thing is, we don't need a close-up of this guy, because, well, first we have a mystery who the hell this guy is, and he's glowing red, and then we go dun dun dun, and then he's sitting on top of the dog, and those guys maybe over here looking at him, maybe running away or something like that. He's like, what the hell, right? And then he turns them into the bad ones, and I'm not sure what's happening here, right? But then I would definitely do that. But other than that, good job. Okay, we're gonna break our record again today. 3 hours and 37 minutes. Right, Horus. So first thing first, good job on blocking everything in and experimenting. But right now, the local colors are all over the place, right? We need a solid reference for this. We need to figure out what the lighting scenario is. I'm not sure if you had a solid ref. It looks like you are trying to merge a sunset in the middle of the day with a yellow light, and then you are confused about the local colors of the characters. Reference is everything, and here I can see you didn't work with them. Here, I'm not sure if it's the same picture in the same time of day. You also are like, is she in the shadow, right? So if she's in the shadow, you need to show that she's in the shadow, right? She needs to be completely in the shadow, right? And then if this guy's facing in the shadow, it also needs to be in the shadow because the light is behind. But you guys have to understand that if the light is shining from somewhere on the other side, there's no photons, there was nothing to make a thing bright. The only thing that it can be hit by is either bounce light or sky fill or anything like that. Come on, guys, I lectured you on all those things. So first things first, what's your context? Rewatch the color and light thing, and then rewatch how I paint stuff. And then again, gather some reference, and think about the simple statement. So here you have a simple statement that this guy is picking up fruits or fishing, I'm not sure, in this little pond, right? And then if he's a bright thing on top of this, we'll just make him, you know, light against dark. Why do you have a sunset behind him? It's all simple values, right? You want to be light on dark or dark on light. I remember in the beginning you had this guy completely dark. That was your, you know, that was your composition. But now he is light against light, and you know, you try to do it with this, but it looks a little bit weird, right? So you need to simplify the background a little bit, or you know, make it something like this. I don't know, right? But again, I think you are not working with reference, and you made everything a little bit too dark, like in here, and then you have a drastic change over here, and nothing is going on over here. For example, it looks like this guy is the main focal point, so you know what, why not move the entire thing in the middle, for example, you know? Or we can do this, you know, and then show her terrified face right here, right? So yeah, work on it for a little bit more. You got this. Just more reference. You got it. Okay, hey Opalina. You have enough time to finish everything you wanted. Add a couple of frames and also need to complete another. It's not here yet. Playing. Thanks in advance for feedback, Sensei. I got you. I got you. So again, I think just in terms of contrast, this image can be pushed a little bit, right? So like if we just add a little bit more contrast in here, it looks better, right? And then we need some highlights. So what we can do is we can add some highlights on top, and instantaneously it looks much better, right? Another thing, like I would just add some kind of like half shadows in here, because when we have a big plane or a big plane of just solid color, it looks boring. Gradients looks better, but overall this is pretty nice. Maybe I would just add, oh, I need water. Ooh. What I would do here is like I would probably do, you know, some bounce light from the paper, and then the rest, yeah, the rest is pretty good. Maybe you can just do the same contrast where it's darker. You can do a little bit darker around the focal point. Here I'm gonna say you are in mid-tones, which is good, but right now you're lacking a little bit of saturation. So, you know, emphasize your lighting on them, the warm lighting from the left, you know, and then here you can push it towards the darkness so we see their faces more. You can darken here also a little bit. Right now it's 2 in mid-tones, in my opinion. It's not bad, but it needs to a little bit work on it. This is better. This is cool. The environment still, I have no idea where she's running, what she's doing, but this is a great start. This is good. I like it. And this overall looks... Where do we get unicorn emojis from? Overall, this looks pretty cool and solid. Yeah, just finalize it. Honestly, it's almost ready. Right, try the new way of rendering. Still not done, but I'd like some color advice. Okay, guys, there's one thing that I want you to understand. That when I'm feedbacking you, I spend my time and I spend my effort. So when you are sending your work towards me, and if you're sending this is not done, but I'd like some color advice, but it tells me that you are not willing to finalize something and do all the mistakes, and you don't need me, and you're just throwing it out there because I can't do it. And this is not me, you know, being upset or anything. This is just sometimes could be disrespectful because I am, you know, I am putting all myself out there. And if you are, you know, unfinished with something, you're like, well, it's unfinished, but I tried everything that I could. Okay. This is not for Tim or anyone else, just in general. Sometimes I see people like just throwing something out there because, well, this is free feedback. But what I want is, you know, I respect you guys and I want you to respect me. So when you're doing any of your paintings, try to push it all the way through where you need help, right? Because I'm not here to draw for you, I'm here to guide you. But if I'm drawing for you, that is actually harming you because all you're seeing is me doing what I'm already good at and painting, right? Yeah. So with this one, like again, it's unfinished. Again, where's you need darkness to make things shine, and you need good value range to make things shine. So for example, this side will be darker, this probably will be completely dark, and then you need to make him creepy, you need something underneath here. Yeah. All right, and a bit lost in the crowd. Sveta. This is a super cool painting, you know, just work on the, you know, on form, on some of those things, but I see you're working on your focal points first and then doing everything else. This is a great composition, very, very complex. This is a very complex camera angle in general. I can see that you are pushing it. I don't want to steer you the wrong way. All I want to say is good job, I'm proud of you, and just make sure you continue to push, right? I think the focal points are pretty clear right now, this and this. It's just about this final little bit. Yeah, I like it. It's very nice. It's very nice. Did we do it? Yeah, but again, like VIP, but oh well, struggling a bit with what did you find next. If I need to define it more, thanks for the feedback. Well, like if you did all the mistakes, you know, well, define what your focal point is. If this is your focal point, you're pretty on the right track. But work from the focal point first. So like the silhouette of this thing, it looks like you have two images together. You have this and then you have this. So maybe there needs to be some kind of a gate or a statue or anything else, or a balcony that attracts my eye. Right now it's a nice kind of like establishing shot, but if everything is about this, make everything all about this. Make it bigger, you know, maybe the whole left side could be, you know, or you know what, even if you flip it, it looks nicer. When you flip it, and then, because we're going from left to right, I think flipping it helps a lot. And then just, you know, have it in the foreground. You know, this is your focal point. So make sure that everything is in there is detailed as much as possible, right? And then maybe push this more into the atmosphere. So we're looking only at the thing that we need to look at, right? Yeah, but overall, oh, very nice. Woo! Did we do it? Oh, I think Boris sent something. All right, let's see Boris. So with Boris, I'm gonna tell you one thing, my friend. Let's turn this into black and white. What do we see? We see nothing. We see nothing at all, right? Why do I have a German accent? I see nothing. Again, you have to understand what is your value range. Are you looking inside the silhouette? Then we have to fill it in more. Are we looking on the outside of the silhouette? Then we need to, you know, have a little bit something in the background to fill it in, right? To be completely honest, how would you, or again, for example, you have so many things on the left, but why? What are you using this space for? You're not using it for anything, right? So, you know, crop it up, crop it out. We don't need it, right? We don't need this, we don't need this. All we need is a dragon. Maybe a little bit on the left here, maybe a little bit on the right here, you know, make it more contrasty, make it brighter, maybe even less contrasty, something like this. This already looks better, right? Maybe have a little bit of a, you know, of a gradient from bottom up, and then, you know, have an overlay layer on top of everything and make sure, you know, it's shining underneath him. Also, you are going a little bit too overboard with how detailed your cracks are. And then, you know, I think I already did this paint over once, but then, you know, pop out his, you know, shiny things underneath him. And if that's, I think that's the idea, right? And then, you know, don't be afraid to maybe lose your rim light. You're gonna lose your rim light. Nothing is gonna, not much is gonna change. It's just gonna look awesome. Maybe there's gonna be a little bit of, you know, a little bit of atmosphere in there. And now we're lacking a little bit of focal point. So if we're lacking a little bit of focal point, what we can do is, well, let me do this. What we can do now is, you know, add a little bit of focal point. You know, you can have, you know, swords, you can have money, You can have skeletons, dead people, rocks for a nice clear foreground, right? And now the image is a little bit better. But another thing is like, well, maybe I want both. Maybe I want to have inside of a silhouette and silhouette itself. You know, well, let's do that. And now let's do something like this. And if you want, you can have it, you know, something like that, right? And then you're gonna have some, you know, other things reflecting to that light, and then there's gonna be like some rocks and stuff. Yeah. So if we just, you know, compare, where is it? So I think the original one was much darker or something like that. So we'll compare this to this. Now we have a clear focal point, what's going on, and we know what's happening, right? And then if we want to do something more, we can, you know, we can have some gold in there, shining here and there. We can have, you know, we can have smoke coming out of his nose. We can do anything, honestly, right? But yeah, and then if I was really frank, I would just add more things at the bottom and more things on the left and more things on the right. And then I would maybe have most of his, you know, top head in shadow, because it's going to be most contrasty for epic and cool mystery. And then the only thing in there is going to be shining, you know, is the red, you know, is the red eyes type of a deal thing. Maybe not, we'll see, but I think this looks pretty cool. Yeah, so these are my 5 cents on your thing. You know, maybe something like this. And a lot of dragons, you know, they have, you know, the fire already starting in their mouth, so we can really make it. And then if we want to make it super cool, you know, if you saw The Hobbit, there's some subsurface scattering that is happening underneath, you know, underneath the, you know, the skin, where the fire starts brewing, right? Man, I think that looks pretty cool. Yeah, now I just then again, like for example, you have too many bad things happening in terms of like too noisy. So for every for a very noisy thing, you need to have like a better you know, broader stroke type of a deal. But yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So where is it? Yeah, before, after, before, after. It's pretty simple stuff. Just, you know, practice it. And then if you still want to have the rim light, you can have it if you need to. If you need to define more form and everything else, you can experiment with it. And even if you really want, you can have some, you know, things like this coming from the other side of the cave. Yeah. I did it. I think that was all. 3 hours and 55 minutes and 52 minutes. New record. Yeah. Yeah. All right. I don't think there's should be any questions. Yeah, hopefully this was useful. Thank you for $5, Boris. But again, I did it not because, again, it doesn't matter if you guys donate, don't donate, doesn't matter. Like, we're here to push till the end. I want your diplomas to be good. You know, of course, it's nice when people appreciate what I do. But I'm tired now, for obvious reasons. If anyone saw this feedback session in recording and you made it till the end, I have no idea why you're doing this to yourself. Yeah, you know what? One more thing that I want to do to this thing. There's a little bit of embers, you know, flying around, and we can just do this. Yeah, because embers flying around is cool. Yeah, guys. Thanks so much for joining. Hopefully this was helpful. To go take a bath of peach juice. Me sure you earned it. Knowledge. Yeah. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna relax. You guys are the best. Make sure you know drop a something under the vid, and then maybe tag Julia again and say that we're supporting her. Yeah. All right, guys, you're the best Vikings I've ever known. I'm gonna go relax. And see you Monday. On Monday we have portfolio tips, which is going to be very useful for you, I think. There's a lot of things that you don't know about, so don't miss Monday. And next week is our last week. It's the 10th week. This whole camp's supposed to end today, but for some reason we have 10 weeks, so that's good. All right, I'm gonna go. Oh, come on, button.